What is going on, you two people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here for a Tuesday night live stream. It is the end of the year. We are about to embark on a new one. And I just wanted to get on and chat for a while. May have some special guests pop on. We shall see. I sent some invites out, and we'll see if any friends of the channel may or may not pop on. But yeah, just wanted to do the old live, trying to get back to doing one a week. So, chat, what is going on out there? We will let, per the usual, we will let you guys drive the show for a while till we get some people in. So, hope everyone had a good Christmas. Hope everyone is ready for the new year. What is up, Charles? What is up, Joel? We'll be doing another live. I'm thinking Saturday morning. I want to rip some wax. I got that Marvel box of Series 3 to rip. So we'll probably do another live stream Saturday morning. It'll just be the box rip, though. That's it. What's up, Jonathan? What's up, Josh? We're cracking cards. What is going on? Tube Nachos, what's up? You're welcome, Jonathan. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. So yeah, it has been a wild year in the wonderful world of collectibles. I feel like we've kind of seen it all this year. Crazy prices, crazy dips, all sorts of shenanigans. New grading companies, grading company drama, hobby drama. You know, you name it, we've seen it in the last 365 days. That is for sure. What is up, Dominic? What's up, CNT? What is up, John? Get a little drink here. I'll tease it. I won't say what it is yet till it actually gets here. I got a new comic book key coming that I closed the deal on yesterday. Sold some stuff. Sold one of my Luca Optic Hollows. Brings me down to one to free up some cash to make a play on a CGC book. John says, "Is anyone not hurt in the NBA?" They're all healthy. They're just all in health and safety protocols. They're not actually hurt. Not for real hurt. Gary V's all over NFTs at the moment. So personally, market wise or whatever, I've been putting much more money into the comic book side of things than the sports card side of stuff. I've been looking at comics way heavier than I have probably the last month or so. I've been looking at comics pretty heavy. Mobley is back tonight. That is correct. I'm not an NFT guy. I'm not going to throw shade at someone that is. If if you're all about the NFTs, that's fine, but it's not my shtick. Who's this guy? The sports cards, Zards, Pokemon, anonymous guy. I don't know who that guy is. Do I think the Prism Silver market rebounds most are down over 50%? No, we're not getting back to February, March highs. There's no chance. I mean, I'm not gonna like hate on someone if they enjoy collecting it and doing what they're doing with it. That's on them. You know what I mean? It's not for me. Sports Arts hippopotamus. Yeah, I mean, to circle back to this, and this will probably be something we talk about once a couple people pop on or whatever. Sports card prices are not going back, in my opinion, to what they were. That was a unicorn level event, a once in a million type situation back in January and February. And we're not going to get back to those numbers. Like if you're expecting a, Zion Silver to be 3K again or, whatever, That's not gonna happen. Lou Dort's one of those weird ones that, because he was, I think an undrafted or a second round pick. I forget his exact story. But yes, much like Christian Wood, he does not, he has very limited cards. Terrence Davis was another guy that was like that. Taylor Horton Tucker is kind of like that. Taylor Horton Tucker does not have a Prism rookie. That's why his Optic Hollow goes for so much. Yeah, NFT wise, I just don't know what that market ends up being at some point in time. I just frankly do not understand it well enough to even attempt to try to give analysis on that. I feel like just like anything else, it'll eventually pull back. As we've seen in sports cards and comic books and just about everything else, nothing nothing lasts forever. They can only go up for so long before they come back down. I love when you and Dakota fight. However, he seems wrong most of the time. I agree, Matt. Dakota is very wrong most of the time. Don't sit on. I mean, hopefully they're slabbed if you're sitting on them. If you're just sitting on top loaders, that's probably not real good for the cards. A big part of this card spike was from a handful of buyers who likely got burned. They gone now. I mean, a big part of the card spike was the fact that everyone had oodles of extra money because no one could do anything. You really couldn't go out that much. Everyone was at home. People were working from home. People were saving tons of extra money. Um, that drove a lot of it, and people just looking for something to do. Yeah, and a lot of those people are gone. A lot of people that came in for the quick buck have made or lost their quick buck and have moved on to the next thing, whether that's NFTs or, whatever it is, they have moved on to whatever the next thing is that they're going to be a part of. The new market will be numbered cards. I mean, number cards have suffered just as hard as non-numbered cards, to be quite honest with you. And there's still a lot of numbered parallels out there. Yeah, I joke all the time about like the purple swirly disco balls, and then I bought a Garland numbered disco blue. But even the numbered stuff really isn't that rare to a certain degree. How many numbered prism parallels are there? How many optic numbered parallels are there? How many mosaic numbered parallels are there? It's still a matter of finding the ones that matter, which I still believe are like a color match. Even if it doesn't comp the best, if I was going to go for something numbered, I would definitely hunt for a color match. Like a Trey Red Prism out of 299 or 399 or whatever red is out of. I think it's 299. I would much rather have that than a lot of other Trey cards, even ones lower numbered. Everything in the last few years is a crash grab. Not sure I've ever been wrong. Debatable, Dakota. Debatable. I'm always skeptical of second year cards, and Brady's the one guy that has not gone down yet. I would just be very choosy if you're going in the second year cards, even of Brady. Do your homework on what sets really matter, which parallels really matter, and go from there. I'm not super familiar with the Brady market. All I know is Brady is one of the few players that has not gone down. You know, um, Spoilers for a video coming later this week. I looked at a bunch of 1 year data, and I'll probably do this video for Friday on New Year's Eve. And, just about everything is down over year. Even, some all time great players. Brady is one of the few that has not dipped. He has just stayed 100% level basically since they won the Super Bowl. How long can that last for? I believe PSA crossover. I don't know the answer to that question. Honestly, I haven't looked. Crossover is really not worth it, to be honest with you. Um, if you're gonna try to cross, you basically have to crack it. Otherwise, you know, Uh, I mean, it just wasn't about the. I mean, the lockdown started way before March. March was the tail end of the. I mean, by March of 2021, we were putting vaccine in people's arms, and things looked like they were getting back to normal. Have autographs suffered too? I haven't checked a ton on baseball. They sure haven't. Man, oh man. I've linked to a couple different things. Soto stuff is just insane right now. A Soto Gold sold on my slabs for 55K, I think it was. Like, just insane. Need a card show now, scratch his neck. Yeah, we haven't had a local show in a while, Gems. I, Cam Reddish is whatever. He's fine. I think he's an NBA role player at best. I would actually still prefer DeAndre Hunter for young guys from that team. I collect dead presidents. IPC cash. Favorite PC pickup or pull? I don't really pull. I don't really rip much wax. I'll give two answers. Sports card wise, the LeBron Chrome Chalk Toss Refractor. I love that card. It's dead in front of me. It sits right smack in the middle of my desk. Comic book wise, the Hulk 181 back there. I really didn't think I'd ever own one of those, to be quite honest. Zion's a really good NBA player. Like, I'm not big on putting money into his cards. He's a really good NBA player. It's all about the health and the body and all that stuff. If you could guarantee me Zion would stay completely healthy, then I would like to have Zion. Did I just see on Twitter that John Madden died? Yep. According to Twitter, John Madden passed away. Well, incoming spike to Madden sealed video games, anything Madden related. I don't know if he has cards or autographs, but that stuff will be going crazy. Can't take Madden from me. Madden, man, that sucks. That really sucks. Yeah, some stuff when I was looking at the year over year data, a lot of stuff is down prior to even last year's numbers, like quite a bit in some cases from the stuff that I was looking at. I just generally don't like investing in football. To me, football is a get in, make your money, and then get out again. Prior to this season, it was all Herbert, and then Burrow is like the redheaded stepchild, no pun intended. And then this year, they've kind of flip flopped. Herbert's had moments, and Burrow's had moments. To me, Herbert had higher expectations and is kind of disappointed a little bit on those expectations. Burrow, I think, just needs a little bit better offensive line. He has the weapons. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are really good. Mixon's good. I think they just need a little bit better offensive line and maybe a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball. Um, you know, I would go with probably whatever one's the better deal. Burrow stuff's going to be insane right now. I'm assuming I know at least some of his stuff got a bump from the 500-yard, 4-touchdown game. SGA is really good, but SGA is on a not great team. The Thunder, as plucky as they are not making the NBA playoffs most likely. But SGA is a really good player. I've always really liked him, but it's like, what is it going to take for his stuff to be relevant? He's not. He's not going to lead a team to the NBA playoffs anytime soon. He's not going to be MVP discussion anytime soon. Is he the best player on a team? An NBA championship team? I don't know. To me, he's a perfect Robin. Like, you put him on a really good team with another star and look out. I mean, I just don't see Cam Reddish as a superstar. I don't. And in the NBA, that's what matters. He's been very up and down in his NBA career. From this year's class, um, Mobley, Scotty Barnes, uh, Kuminga's an interesting prospect. Cam Thomas is an interesting prospect. Jalen Green. I mean, this class is really, really good. Oh, LeBron. It's not even close. Zion versus LeBron. How much does a chalk toss go for? PSA 9 refractors are about 1,700 to 2K, give or take, depending on the day. Yeah, there's a lot of different variant covers from that Jordan stuff. I mean, you could record whatever you want. My videos don't go anywhere. It's pretty easy to find. Um, I, I, I just don't see him as an NBA superstar. You know, is he ever going to be a first team All NBA guy? I personally don't think so. I've been wrong on plenty of stuff before. Madden is indeed the GOAT. Yeah, I think I was more of a Madden 95 guy. And he was a really good announcer. A lot of people, you know, depending on your age, you probably don't actually remember him calling games. Madden had so many amazing one-liners. This is very accurate. Madden is the John Candy of football. PMGs, BGS, and PSA. That's a tricky one. It's really going to come down to your individual, how you evaluate the card for grading. If you think it could 10, send it to PSA. If you think it's a borderline, you know, you might want to BGS it to get a BGS 9 and then, or 9.5 rather. And then same thing's going to hold true for a 9. Like if you think it's a PSA 9 all day, send it to PSA. If you're not sure if it's between an 8 and a 9, send it to BGS. You might be able to squeeze out a BGS 9. I just feel like he's done this before, though. Like Reddish has had really big games before, and then he just disappears. I'm concerned about his overall consistency. I mean, buy whatever you think. Don't listen to the idiot on YouTube. But if you got a feeling or you like the player, go for it. Don't just because I say I don't like him doesn't mean you don't have to like him. What am I thinking about KPJ right now? I mean, they threw way too much on him on that team. I don't really have any KPJ. I pretty much moved everything I possibly could at the beginning of the season. I have some random raw stuff laying around. Nothing crazy though. A couple Mojo raws. Anything nice and graded, I sold at the beginning of the season. I've not seen the Vegas Dave documentary. Oh, we got a special guest in the background. He doesn't know anything though. Hold on, special guest ready. He looks ready. Let's bring this clown show.
I was told I knew more than Neo. That's what I've been told. I don't know.
I was told you know nothing, Jon Snow.
I know everything. I'm pretty sure. So,
do you have any hot takes on Cam Reddish?
He seems to be the funny. I actually been buying Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter both because I'm getting PSA 10 like parallels of Prism, Mosaic, Select for nothing, and I'm like, okay. I mean, literally for under $30, and I'm like, these guys are good basketball players. I'm not trying to dump $2,000 into them, but I'll throw $100 at some parallels and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter's stuff is like dirt cheap. I was looking at some PSA 10 red ices because I've always liked Hunter. I've always been Team Hunter over Team Reddish.
I'm definitely a DeAndre Hunter guy over Reddish for sure.
Hunter's both sides of the ball. Like
Yeah,
Hunter
I
could be a
like
really
DeAndre
good.
Hunter quite a bit.
Hunter's a really good defensive player on top of the fact that he could be a good offensive player.
Yeah.
Eloy lately. Eloy stuff is dirt cheap too.
Yeah,
Are we
Eloy's another
on an
good one.
elevator right now? What is happening?
Yeah, my desk goes up and down, but I'm still working on like getting my mic properly when I'm standing up. So
Holy hell! I thought the world was sinking or some shit. I have those desks at work.
Yeah, so I mean, Eloy's a good one too, guys. I mean, look, I don't know if I'm going to put that kind of money in those type of years. I'm looking at Kyle Tucker. I'm looking at Bo Bichette. I'm looking at Luis Robert. They're all pretty much in that same boat where PSA 10 refractors and pink refractors are right around 100 to 125 bucks. I'd rather put my money in Bichette. Eloy's already lost 2 years to injury, year and a half to injury. C&T will tell you it's really going to hurt his Hall of Fame case at the end of it, which I know is thinking way down the line. But if you're looking for a quick flip, I mean, sure, why not? Eloy's a great player.
One of those guys is going to break out. I don't know which one it's going to be. And it might not even be one of those three, but someone in that line, like Devers, Lubob, Bo, Eloy. There's a couple other guys that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head that are in that like $100 to $150 range for a refractor. And one of them is going to have not like a Vlad level season, but one of them is going to have a breakout season. Not all of them are. One of them probably is going to.
I mean,
you're probably going to be able to do really well on their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, what's amazing is all these guys really have already played great at their age. I'm a big fan of Bo Bichette just because, I mean, he posted 5 WAR last year as a shortstop. And I think that, I mean, he's with 23 or something. He's just going to get better. So, like, to me, like, he doesn't even have to have like a major breakout season. Like, he's already shown that he can play all-star level shortstop play in the big. So, if he just continues to progress a little bit, I really like Bo Bichette cards right now. Lou Bob's another great one, too.
The only problem is, and you're right, like Bo Bichette had an amazing season last year, but I think he has to go another level for him to crack into that. Like me and you have both talked, and you've talked on your channel too. Like the young talent in baseball right now is absolutely ridiculous. Like to crack that Soto, Tatis, Vlad, Otani, Acuna level, he has to put up obscene numbers to kind of like get the spotlight on him above those guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think Bichette's ceiling from a price perspective is kind of where Tatis is at right now. Now, obviously, that changes over time. I just mean, like, if he really spikes. But to me, like, I like Bo Bichette for the long term. I just think his cards are real cheap. Like, I'm thinking like 5-6 years. If he posts 4 to 5 WAR for the next 5 or 6 years, I mean, his cards are going to go up. I mean, it's just so I'm thinking a little bit longer on Bo.
Yeah, there's a lot of good, like, as much as the value's there at the top, and I don't know if you saw, Soto stuff just keeps going crazy. A first Bowman Gold sold for $55,000 on my slab.
Yeah, I heard you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, thoughts on PSA? Is the Q system the future for PSA? I think it's the future for the next 6 to 8 months.
I mean, I think the Q system, I think the Q system's here to stay for PSA, but in a very limited format. Like, it's going to be like, we're running a deal. It's $8 a slab or something like that. And they'll pull on the Q system for that long term. But yeah, I think for the most part, like as part of the normal operating, I don't really see the Q system too long there. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's just more until they clear the backlog. And then once the backlog is mostly gone, and then they can kind of, become the fully operational Death Star, then I don't know that they'll still need the Q system. Because
I think
people aren't going to be
run
sending in like they were before. It's just.
Yeah. I think it's going to be fun for them to be able to like run promotions with the Q system, like having it in your back pocket. Oh, we're doing a Black Friday sale, Q system, $5 a slab or something. So I think you're still going to see it like in spots as basically a sales event. But yeah, long term, I don't really see it as part of their plan.
Yeah, and I can see them busting it out to your point exactly. Like, hey, if you're a Collectors Club member and you're working on a set registry, we have 2,000 cards that could be graded at $5 a piece or something.
Yeah.
Like, you must have 25% of the set completed on your PSA set registry or something like that. And you could grade 5 cards each for $5 a pop or something like that, from that set.
Yeah.
It seems to have worked. I didn't get in it. It seemed like it worked pretty well, like in regards to like tech issues and stuff.
I'm not aware of anyone claiming there were any issues. I didn't track any of that stuff, but I'm not aware of anyone saying anything.
Do you need a minute for the John Madden news? Does that hurt your soul?
What news was there? I saw y'all talking about him.
He passed away.
Did you just tell me John Madden passed away?
Yes.
John Madden passed away like years ago, didn't he?
No.
John Madden died years ago. Am I off on that?
Yeah.
Did he actually just die? I could
Yeah.
have sworn he.
I'll let that process for a minute while
Yeah.
I agree.
Holy smokes.
Hunter
Man,
and Okoro right now are they remind me of similar players.
that's so crazy. He hasn't been in media or anything in
No, when he
years.
retired, man, he retired.
Holy cow. I legit thought he died like a few years ago.
Do you have anything of his? I feel like if anyone would have like a John Madden card or like a Madden auto, it would be you.
I looked at some Madden stuff. He doesn't really have any like set. I mean, I'm sure there's one or two out there, and it's probably nothing. I probably made a mistake not buying it. Let me see. I'll tell you real fast what he has. Actually, I can tell you. Give me a second.
Good luck, because it
I
probably
legit
just
thought
sold.
he was dead. That's so crazy. Hold on, let me see. My Hall of Fame rookie card list will tell me what he's got. So,
if you were buying a high-end NBA star, would you prefer low-numbered select courtside or a flawless horizontal patch auto? I'm going to go with the flawless 10 times out of 10. In this case, De'Aaron Fox. But like a young NBA, remove the player from it. Like if you were investing in a young upside NBA player, would you rather have a courtside select or a flawless auto?
I'd rather have courtside.
Really?
I like vertical cards, and I talked about it the whole time. Like I like the base set stuff. Understand we're talking about a parallel, but like I like kind of this flagship stuff. That's just always been my thing. So
that's fair.
But that's personal preference. That's not like saying which one's a better investment. That's just like I would rather have.
Charles says Bo will never be better than his dad.
That's probably not true. Yeah, so Madden doesn't have any cards, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he have like a weird auto in anything or anything?
No. I mean, because I have, so I'm not going to, whatever. I've shared the Rookie Hall of Fame set before. Paul helped me put it together. I don't know if Paul's here. And there's no cards for, there's like Tech Schramm. There's plenty of like executives out there that have cards, but Madden I'm not aware of any card. Though I think he was, no, that's Lombardi. Never mind. No, yes, I don't think he has a card. I don't think John Madden has a card.
Huh. I'm surprised by that. You would think someone somewhere would make something.
Yeah, it's actually really surprising. Because I'm even trying to think, like, was there like a Madden special?
Like a coach card or something. You know what I mean? Something somewhere.
I'll check eBay real fast to double check. But, dude, you're blowing my mind. I legit thought Madden has been dead.
No.
That's so crazy.
Someone said all Madden cards from the early 90s, but I don't know if that actually had Madden on it.
So I see now he's in 2006 Topps Chrome. He's in a Hall of Fame set. I guess we didn't look. It's an insert set. And that kind of looks like it might be it. Oh, nope. Here you go. This is going to be the big one. 1995 Skybox Impact Fox announcers. Pat Summerall and John Madden. That's probably going to be the big one.
I'm guessing those all got immediately blown off eBay.
Yeah, I only see one. It's a PSA 9, and they're asking $500. So
is that just listed?
It doesn't say just listed. Funny enough.
Look at the sold listings. How many just sold in the last 30 minutes?
Yeah, I see a lot of games got sold. Let me filter for trading cards.
Someone said Madden has autos in 1990s score.
Yeah, it looks like, so the folks might remember in the early 90s there was the all Madden action pack cards. And he's got some auto stuff in that's real small.
We talk about baseball, and then this clown show sneaks into the back.
Hey,
the greedy Filmington makes an appearance.
What's going on, guys? Neo,
up,
Dakota.
Filmington?
How you doing?
Doing well.
So, what do you have a hot take? I don't know if you heard our conversation. The breakout of Bo Bichette, Lou Bob, Devers, like that, the second tier guys, like those $100 to $150 refractor guys.
Yeah, I didn't catch much of that, but I think in order to get the good graces of the hobby and to make it to the next level, there's just too many young guys. There's too much competition these days, and it's not getting any easier with Wander Franco, maybe soon to be Bobby Witt if he makes a splash. I mean, I like them all in theory, but in order for them to really gain hobby respect, they have to take their game to the next level, and they have to do that as soon as possible before people just completely lose interest altogether. And I think individually, they all have the ability to do that, maybe, but the odds might be against that if you look at each one individually. Between Devers, Jordan, Bichette, even Luis Robert, they all could do it, but there might be more downside than upside versus just going with like a Juan Soto or Tatis type, because at least you know they're there. And if you had chosen Soto and Tatis, I feel like over those four, then you probably would have done pretty well if you made this decision about a year ago. So nothing against those players. Devers, I don't know if he's complete enough. Defense is about average. Great hitter. I don't know if he can put together a 6 to 8 plus WAR season. And in order to get into like the Soto Tatis territory or Trout territory, he needs to get there. Luis Robert, he probably is the most capable because he has the fewest holes in his game, but can he stay healthy? He's going on age 25 season. Yordan Alvarez plays a little bit of outfield, DHs a little bit. Are his knees going to hold up? Can he contribute defensively? He certainly can't contribute from a base running perspective. And then Bo Bichette, did we see his best possible season this past year? Can he hit more than 35 home runs? Is he going to continue to be able to steal 25 to 30 plus bags? Can he improve his defense? Can he not be overshadowed by Vlad again? I don't know.
What about Kyle Tucker? Any love there?
Yeah, so he's another guy I like. And, it's not like I'm not buying these guys. Like I do have money in most of them. Kyle Tucker, Devers, Yordan Alvarez. But if there's a time where these guys are truly standing out amongst their peers, specifically maybe in April, maybe Yordan Alvarez has the major league home run lead, I'll be looking to sell. I don't know if I'd be long-term with any of these guys. By long-term, I mean like more than 3 to 5 years out. Would I still be holding these cards just personally? But Kyle Tucker is another one, slipped under the radar, not affected by the black cloud, the stain that affects most of the Houston players. And it wouldn't really affect Jordan either, I'd argue. But so he's a guy that can potentially get better. Could become a plus fielder, I think. He's got good speed. They don't really use him to steal, although he did that in the minors. He has the ability to put up good on base percentages, although we haven't really seen that in the majors. But he could definitely hit, and he can hit for power too. So
he put on a lot of weight during the last offseason. That's probably why we're seeing a lot less, speed traits out of him. I mean, he put on like 15 pounds of muscle, I think. So, but I expect to see more pop. And so I think his home run numbers are going to rise, which is probably better from a hobby perspective anyway. So,
yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the prettiest swing, but Christian Yelich didn't either. And we saw what he did in a couple of years. So,
did you see the Soto gold sale from My Slabs?
Yeah. I think that card is up for trade. It showed up in a Facebook group. The guy listed it. It had similar subs. It had like 1 9 sub, a 10 sub, and I think 2 9.5s. And he listed it for 65,000 trade value, which is very close to what he paid for it. He's looking to trade for Bobby Witt. He said it might be the same card. It might not be.
You have to check the serial numbers. Someone said MKG Sports bought the one from My Slabs.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a 10, 2 9.5s, and a 9 subgrade, 58-2.
Hey, Loco, you're talking about the hobby not liking White Sox hitters. Abreu did win MVP in 2020, but the problem is his age. He came in a little bit late, and I don't know. Abreu's an amazing player, but I don't know. He definitely doesn't get the love in the hobby.
And then did you see the Soto Refractor first Bowman, the PSA 10 that went for $15K 2 days ago, yesterday or the day before, I think?
Yeah, I did see that. Kind of
not
makes
an all-time
sense.
high. I was kind of surprised. It actually went for higher, but that's a huge bump from the last sale, though.
Yeah, because there really haven't been that many of those that have sold, and now like the non-numbered versus the numbered Bowman Chrome autographs, like they're starting to the base versus the numbered stuff. The multipliers are starting to expand. So now the refractor, it used to sell close to like 1.5 times the base for Bowman Chrome, but now it's close to 2 times. So, and that's right around where his base should be, around 7,500 right now. So, and he's selling for about 30% of Trout, so that makes sense again, that sale. So I wouldn't say it's low, but I wouldn't say it's high either.
Like, so once the season starts, what do you I mean, obviously performance will depend a little bit on this, but like Soto never had a dip. You know, his September was as hot as you could possibly get, and he just carried it straight into the offseason. His prices never tanked. And if anything, they've been recently on an upward swing. You know, if he comes out and just has like a Soto-like season, do we think these values hold, or is there going to be a pullback? Because, you know, we've seen how many times before these guys play great and their prices still decrease because it's just kind of like a nature of the beast.
Yeah, you know, you look at what happened to Pat Mahomes in different sports. Clearly, if you paid too much attention to basketball and football, the amount of intimidation and fear you have should spread to baseball as well, because you can see how, you know, quickly things can turn across, you know, when these guys start playing, just everybody's basically down, which you talk about all the time, Neo, of course, and you as well, Dakota, with football. But what we saw with Mahomes, I thought it took like longer than it should have for his prices to come down this year. I thought he was getting a lot of respect for being like the young generational guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'd see that with Soto. In 2019 and 2021, he started pretty slow. The 2 seasons where he started in the big leagues in April. So it took him a while to kind of get started. So if you see that again, you know, I think naturally, like what we saw this past year, maybe there's a little bit of a pullback. Maybe it's not like 30, 40% again, at least on the rare stuff. But yeah, like you said, Soto, it's all about that last impression. You know, it's all about what the player last did on the field. And that's why we're seeing Soto right now hotter than Ohtani. It was Ohtani faded in the second half, but Wander Franco hit 2 home runs in his last playoff series, and everybody remembers that. You know, people don't remember what he did in the regular season, which was an okay half season. It wasn't the greatest. But yeah, Soto definitely having that second half, it's definitely helping his hobby. And I think it should remain strong in the entire offseason. Now let's see what happens with the lockout, but lockout fears and a potential player strike, you know, if aside, I think that, yeah, Soto should remain hot. I don't know if he's going to continue to go up. I don't know if that's possible. I think there's maybe some other guys that are undervalued relative to him right now that maybe see a surge in the early spring before camp and during camp. But yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell the future, but I think Soto right now, he's as safe as you can get for a guy that's under 25 in baseball.
Dakota, do you have any hot Soto takes? We know that you, at one point in time, what it was, he did not have a great season last year before he went nuts, to be fair.
It was before Juan Soto finished the season, and all I said was, Juan Soto's having a great season, but he's not doing anything that exceeded our expectations of him. He didn't do anything to make me feel better about, you know, him being called the GOAT of that generation, right? And so, like, for me to say, like, he's meeting expectations, people took that as I hate Juan Soto. I'm actually, you know, I've bought Juan Soto. Like, I'm a fan. I like Juan Soto. I mean, I hate his dance thing. Look, I think it's cool. I just hate that we lost to them in the World Series. It's fine. But, yeah, I like Juan Soto. I don't know what else to say about it. So.
I'll start with Dakota on this one first. Are you worried about the potential of an MLB lockout, or do you think there's just too much money they get this shit fixed?
So there's like 2 answers.
Do you think we actually lose MLB games? Do we think we have an opening day on March, whatever, April 1st?
Yeah. So that's the first question, right? Will a lockout impact the season? I don't think any lockout will impact the start of the season. I just don't see it. There's too much money for everybody on the table. And then 2, if there is a lockout, does it impact the sports card market? Only if it's like, it has to be real bad. Like they have to miss like the season or half the season, and then people are just going to quit baseball altogether. If they miss 2 weeks, no one's going to care. It'll be fine.
Philmington, same question.
Yeah, you know, there's what I hope happens and what is most likely to happen. What I hope happens, obviously, is a lockout to not be prolonged, for them to resolve this, for them not to miss any games, for them to get full practice and spring training. But, you know, in reality, the relationship between the owners and the players is probably the worst in baseball versus all other sports, and it's probably deteriorated over the last few years. And the issues that they have to work out, they're pretty significant. There's all sorts of stuff, and the biggest thing is revenue sharing. And there's something to do with like the regional cable networks going bankrupt because of the advent of streaming. and all the revenues going there. So that's going to be, I believe, kind of like an ace up the sleeve of the owners, or some leverage that they'll have maybe to hold out a little bit longer, saying, oh, we need more money to, to bail out these cable networks. What are we going to do with them? But, I'm not saying that it's going to get bad. Unfortunately, we're not going to really find out anything unless something's leaked. Manfred's going to do his best to make sure this is hush hush. There was something where he came out, I think about a month ago, saying like, we urge the players to come to the table too and join us. So he's already starting to finger point a little bit, which I don't like kind of trying to,
place blame.
Yeah.
Like, we're here waiting for you guys, spin the narrative basically.
Right. If you look back at like what happened in '94, what do they miss? Like 30 to 50 games?
30 games, I think. Yeah.
Oh, don't remind me of '94. As an Indian fan, losing '94 hurts so bad.
Yeah, but see, that was on the back end too, right? So I think that made it way worse. If you're losing,
because we were. I mean, that was the first time the Indians have been relevant in my entire life, and then as a 13-year-old kid to have that snapped away hurts so bad. I mean, obviously they came back in '95 and then they went on a magical run for the next few years, but to lose that '94 season was devastating.
Yeah, just from like a macro level too, like the divide in wealth has just gotten so much worse since then. Like outside of sports, everybody hates the billionaires now, and they're only getting richer. And the players, sure, they're getting richer, I guess, but the owners are really, separating themselves like they would in all other facets of life. The top 1% or top half of the top 1%. So I fear that fans will be left with a sour, impression. Sour taste in their mouth if things do get bad, even if they do get resolved. If they cost us games, especially after missing, although it was because of natural disaster / COVID last year, there could have been a chance where they could have played sooner without fans. So we lost that, and baseball's not a sport where, there's already enough negative momentum against it. If you look at year-over-year attendance, and viewership's tough because now MLB will point to streaming ratings. That's like, well, yeah, it's new. And of course, don't compare it against 2020 because nobody watched sports and people hated the fact that there weren't fans in the stand, with artificial sound, watching from home. So compare it against 2019 and let's look at not just streaming, but streaming plus cable. But they don't do that. So I fear that it's just getting, not that baseball's on a path to die within 10 or even 20 years, but I don't know if baseball can afford an absence like maybe some other sports could.
Do you think, Filmington, this is way out there, do you think there's things that MLB could do to make baseball more appealing to people?
I think they're trying that. I think they've tried a lot of things. I think maybe the end result of what they've done, a lot of what they've done, is they've pissed off the traditionalists, and they haven't brought in any new fans, any young fans, and viewership's still declining. And games are getting longer. So they've done things like extra inning rules, this, that, like pitchers, the 3-batter rule, and there's all sorts of things that they've toyed with or thought about. And the pitch clock, they've talked about the 10 seconds, and it's like, and they've incorporated some of these things, but the games have gotten longer. And if you actually look at like the last like 5 to 10 years, it's not even correlated to the offense. So they'll make changes to the baseball. So, they suppress pitching and they'll suppress offense the next year. And even when offense is suppressed, the games don't even get shorter. It's kind of weird. So it's all around like tendencies and the deliberate nature of pitchers and all the pitching changes and stuff like that probably causes that. But it's kind of interesting. So they could try all sorts of things to make things more interesting. The universal DH, if they do that permanently, that could be a good thing.
Is that not
I don't know if incorporating replay helps. It helps get the call right, which is great, but I don't know if it makes the game any better. And some of the other things that they've changed around, like the home plate collision type stuff you can't do, and you can go in hard at second base. You can't go like cleats up anymore and try to take out the shortstop. There's like certain like contact aspects that I really enjoyed about the game that they took away.
Just bring steroids back like they did in the 90s. Fix everything.
They need to. I mean, they need to compact it somehow. Like whether it's making a shorter season. I'm a fan of shorter seasons. I think the NBA should probably go to less than 60 games. People are going to hate it. I think baseball should probably be under 100 games. They would never. I know it's too much money, but I'm just saying if we want to drum up interest, you have to make it more compact. You have to make every pitch more meaningful. There's just so many pitches in a season, so many at bats that people are like, whatever. I'll see the highlights. I mean, because people watch playoff baseball. People tend to like October baseball, but the 7 months before that, no one's watching. So,
yeah, I mean, who wants to go to a Cleveland or a Pittsburgh game in April when it's 40 degrees and crappy outside? It's not even fun to watch on TV either. I mean, even in the summer, it's a long, boring game. But like, I love baseball when I was a kid. Like, I would not miss an Indians game, and then as I got older, it just it was like, oh, okay, I'll throw it on the radio in the back. I actually prefer to listen to baseball on the radio more than I do to watch it. Like put it on the background while I'm doing other things is how I consume probably 90%
I think that's how most
regular
people
season baseball games.
I think that's how most people take in baseball games. They're doing something, as their primary task and they have baseball in the background as a secondary because the announcer gets loud and you say, oh shit, let me pay attention,
Yeah. Do you think Philmington, how big of an impact do you think the lockout would have on a card market side of things? Like if we get to spring training and it's looking dicey, but it's probably going to get done, does it have an impact, or is it more like, do we actually have to lose games before? Because, the three of us always, or at least, Dakota and I say quite a lot, if they're not playing games, it's actually might be better for card values than not. So like, would it be more about just people getting disenfranchised with the sport than it would be about actually losing the games themselves, like actual on-field performance?
I don't know. I think the players that it would affect more are the newer ones that are less established. The players that are in their prime still. Not so much a Mike Trout, but basically anybody under the age of 27, 28. Their ability to win MVPs and accumulate stats. They're just more volatile anyways. So I think the more volatile players and cards will end up getting hit the most and probably the lower end stuff before the rare stuff. But yeah, with regards to like, if they miss a month, would that actually be a good thing? Because when the games start, that could hurt their values. I think that's kind of replaying the past too much of what we saw with basketball over the last few years, where we saw like reinflation when they had a big pause and then prices started to come back a little bit. I wouldn't look too much into that with baseball. But yeah, to your point, it would be, I think, disenfranchised fans, hobbyists being like, what the F,
Yeah, screw these rich guys.
Right.
The owners and the players.
Yeah, I think if they miss more than a week and a half, I think there would be a hobby impact.
It's so interesting.
One second, Dakota. Hold on. We have another guest. I'm gonna sneak on here. What is up, Flipping Steve? Quad box now.
Don't pause for me, man. Don't pause for me. I'm enjoying watching backstage. I feel privileged with the backstage access.
Backstage pass, Flipping Steve backstage pass.
I get to watch you guys
with what you were going to shoot out there.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting, filming to what you were saying, like, and what we've seen, right, with how cards just exploded during COVID when no one was playing. And a lot of that we can talk to. People join the hobby, yada. But a lot of it was people like hyping people up, and then there was no games to like say that's not true. And then that happened for like 6 more months. And then eventually, a real season, 2021 season starts to get played. And then that's when prices start to crash.
I agree with part of what Philmington's saying, though. I think it is hard to draw conclusions from what we've seen in the last 2 years of charts and graphs or whatever you want to call it. There's so many weird things that happened depending on the season and the sport and lockdowns and COVID and checks and not checks and all this stuff. I think it's really hard. I think it can be dangerous to look backwards and say like, oh, well, it did this last season, so
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't look at that to draw conclusions moving forward. But it's just interesting how it happened, like at the time. Yeah,
and it has seemed to happen with. I mean, Dakota, me and you have talked about this, and I think Steve has as well. It does seem like regardless of sport, almost football season starts, everyone goes down. Basketball season starts, everyone goes down except for a few guys. Even baseball, Tatis, Acuna, all those guys, Soto, all were sliding down to start the season. Then Acuna got red hot and spiked up and then immediately went back down again. Year over year from the beginning of baseball season to the end of baseball season, Otani and Vlad were really the only winners. I think Soto got back to where he left off, like back to the spring numbers. Tatis obviously had a lot of injuries and stuff. And the NBA this year, other than Steph Curry, there's not many, Darius Garland and maybe a handful of other guys. Like how many are actually up from the start of the season? And same with football. How many, Dakota, you might know better off the top of your head, how many football guys are actually up from where the card market started at in September?
It's not many. Literally Mac Jones.
Probably Jonathan Taylor. Probably Cooper Kupp.
Kupp. Yeah, you're talking about skill position. I was just thinking about quarterback.
Oh, yeah, quarterback. But Mac Jones didn't have any cards to start the season.
Yeah, I don't know. So the way I see it kind of is, I think it helps if there's clarity with regards to okay, the opening day is going to be this date. To Dakota's point, any anticipation is going to be the best friend of all of these hyped players. More anticipation, more building. What that means is that the players have more room to go up before they go down. So by middle of the season, their prices will be where they would have been with or without games in April. So it just means that they're just going to crash further based on more anticipation in April without games. That's kind of the way I see it. That's kind of the way it's affected basketball, right? The more, there's been reinflation with all these pauses, the more prices have kind of gone down afterwards to kind of net that out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to pop to a question here in chat that just came up because I actually find this interesting. I'll go around the horn. Dakota first. What do you consider low pop for ultra modern cards?
I've basically always considered a low pop, $2,000 or under. Now, if we're talking 2018, 2019, I just over here, I got Juan Soto up, right? And his PSA 10 has a pop of 10,000. And no one's going to say that's low. But just like everyone knows, Juan Soto has a limited selection of rookie cards. So I would say his overall pop report is actually kind of low relative to the size of the market at this point. So that's a really horrible answer. I'm sorry. I'm not giving you a straight one. I think 2,000 and under on flagship is really low. I think outside of that, you kind of have to look by player, by market, and what their rookie selection is.
No, it is a relative question, relative to what, are we talking Zion? Are we talking Soto? Are we talking F1? You know what I mean? There is, depending on the bucket that you're in. So I completely get that. Steve, do you have a good answer for this one?
Yeah, like you said, it's relative to the demand, You could have a pop report of 100 and that sounds low, but if it's on something nobody wants, that's high.
Mm-hmm.
And even with Soto, like Dakota said, with it being at 10 grand, that's somebody that's really in demand. And people are always going to talk about the Zion Prism. He's not in demand right now. Even when that card was at 15K and that card was in demand, it held value. Same with the Luka. The stuff's just not in demand. So the pop reports don't even really matter, to be quite honest. And then when you start getting into more rare cards where the card is just rare itself, where it's serial numbered or something like that. And even that, the manufactured scarcity, with there being so many parallels out there that you touched on earlier, really limiting down to which ones are going to be in demand. Of course, there's not going to be a high pop report on a card that's serial numbered out of 10. You know what I mean? But again, I just got a card in the mail today that's a Dan Marino card numbered out of 5. But, I got it because it's Dan Marino. But is it something that's I'm going to grade to get a pop report on? Probably not. So again, it's all relative if you just want a baseline number on something to say whether it's a high pop or a low pop, that's an impossible question to really answer. And I know this question is directed towards ultra modern, but it's even a tough question to answer with ultra modern. Because even cards with low pop, if they're not desirable cards, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just because a particular player like Tyrese Maxey's Silver Prism is pop 50. It's not pop 50 because it's low pop. It's pop 50 because no one wanted to grade it before he had a breakout season this year. You know what I mean? There's still probably 2,000 of those things in a PSA 10 floating in the world. They just haven't been graded yet. So,
and I guess this is also going to relate also to, I'm going to guess, just strictly PSA 10s, because you see the funny listings where somebody's got an ultra modern card that's a pop 6, and they're like, or it's graded a 6, and they're like, it's a pop 1. Well, of course it's a pop 1 because it's a PSA 6 of an ultra modern card. There's 20,000 PSA 10s and there's 5 PSA 6s, so it's a pop 5, but there's 20,000 out there better.
Filmington, any hot takes on this one?
Yeah, and I know it's aimed towards ultra modern, but like, yeah, it's tough even for like cards slightly before the ultra modern era. So you look at like Mookie Betts 2014, as I know baseball, it's probably around 2,500, 3,000 in a PSA 10. The update is that too many? I would say it's probably fine, but it's subject to change. Let's see how he finishes his career. Similarly with Mike Trout, 5,500. Is that too much? Well, he didn't have a chrome. Doesn't have that many rookie cards. Sort of in like the Soto camp there, but is that too many compared to his alternatives? And let's see how he finishes his career. Is he going to, fall off a cliff like Albert Pujols, or is he going to fall more gracefully? And you look at, like Juan Soto, 20K on his Topps Update paper. To me, that even though he has few alternatives, to me that might still be high but we don't know. Maybe Fanatics 10X is the hobby, and we don't know what Soto's going to do the rest of his career. But I would say that one would be what I'm more worried about. And in general, a lot of the ultra modern players for baseball and for other sports too would be the ones that I'd be a little more concerned about. Because if you compare, Soto at 20K, is he really going to have a better career than Albert Pujols? Because Pujols' Topps rookie had what, like under 1,000 total? So then when you start to compare that, then it starts to tell a interesting story.
Can I ask a follow-up to that for Filmington or anyone? Like
ahead,
for Soto or Luca, whatever, you're looking at these 20,000 Pop Report cards. I mean, like what percentage of that do you think is in collectors' hands? Like they just have their one and that's their card in their collection. And how many of that, like what percentage of that, I mean, I know we're just guessing here. Do you think it's like in dealers' hands and they have like 300 of them or 1,000 of them and they're just sitting on them and like waiting to move it at some point?
Well, I think it gets a little scary there because you look at Brian Gray, he's been pretty outspoken about his position in Ronald Acuna, bat up PSA 10s. He probably has like, I don't know, between 5 to 10% of the total pop.
Dang.
And he's been outspoken about this.
Card too, isn't it? I mean, in the there's a lot of those. I forget what the number is, but it's easy to find.
Yeah, about 20K. So, he has about 1,000 of those probably. Is that something you want? Because a lot of people had said that, well, there's at least one person in the country that wants a Luca. That's what's keeping these up. That's what's keeping these propped up. But what if one guy has that many? The fact that it's Brian Gray and he's in a pretty good financial position, he's probably not going to, sell them all at once and tank the market. That's good to know.
Yeah.
But if there's a lot of other people that are these like minority shareholders of these cards, is that really what you want? Because that tells like a lopsided version of the truth. Like it's not. Technically, there aren't 20,000 people that want that card because maybe only 10,000 people have that card. They just have multiples.
Yeah, it's interesting too because then also like we look at a Pop Report like there's that many available, but that's not true. What available is what's for sale. That's it. And so no, regardless of what the Pop Report is, what matters is what's available. And I don't know. It's an interesting discussion that has no real answer.
That's why I've always found Soto so intriguing, just in general, because there's not there's a lot of his base card, but there's not a lot of shiny stuff, which is what people, whether it's right or wrong, that's what people want. Of his 2018 stuff, you basically have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Filmington, I'm going off the top of my head. You have the pink refractor, you have the rainbow foil. Those are probably the two main ones, right? Like of his 2018 Topps or Topps Chrome, like in the non-base, that's not like a Bowman's Best or whatever. Like if you're talking Topps Update.
Yeah. If you compare him to Ronald Acuna, who debuted the same year, and you like, okay, well, Acuna was in Series 2, Soto wasn't. Acuna was in Topps Chrome Sapphire, Soto wasn't. Acuna, he was in a later Bowman product, and he was in Bowman and Megabox, and in Bowman Chrome, he had more of the shimmers, the waves, where Soto had very few. He had mostly the traditional colors. And then there's other sets too that Soto didn't make because of the timing of his debut. And then you really start to think like, wow, like Soto has probably half as many well-recognized rookie cards versus Acuna, even though they debuted the same year.
And the pop on those are pretty low in the grand scheme of things. Like his pink, I think, is like under 700, and I think the rainbow foil is under 400 on PSA 10 population. It's not like there's a lot of those out there in general to begin with, on top of what you were just saying, which he's just like one of those unique players that happens to be really good and is in this weird spot of when his cards came out that, he doesn't have a lot out there.
Right. Like Acuna's in Topps Chrome Update and Topps Chrome, and it really starts to add up.
Yeah. We'll go around the horn on this one. Should card makers publish print runs? Boy, this is like one of those ones where it's like, do you want them to? Like, do you really want them to? Do we really want to know the number that's actually out there? I'm sure part of the hobby would say yes. Another part probably says no, keep that in the shadows. I'll go Steve here first on this one.
It's something I never really thought about, to be honest. Should they publish the print runs? I mean, do you trust the number that they publish? It's really what it boils down to. I mean, if you know there's a lot of something, I mean, a lot is a lot. Whether it's a million or a billion, that's both a lot. So I just, I don't think a certain number from a company is going to matter. If anything, it would scare people even more, to be quite honest. I just like to sit there and we all know everything's overprinted, especially, base stuff is definitely overprinted. That's all I need to know. I don't need a number to tell me that it's overprinted. Really, what's it going to change other than ridiculousness, probably.
Dakota, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, I'm going to take the opposite one here. I don't see any world where I say they shouldn't publish print runs. Like, I don't understand what, I mean, they need to. They should 1000%. They should publish print runs. I mean, you don't invest in a stock and not know the outstanding shares. Now, shares outstanding. I mean, I understand people like what's exactly what Steve is just saying right now. Like, people may not look at what shares outstanding are and they may not know, but still, like, that's a huge piece of this puzzle. How rare is what I'm buying? And I mean, we just don't know. And I think it's absurd that that's not public knowledge. And I think I've seen Luber maybe talk about publishing print runs when they go with Fanatics, but I don't know. We'll see. I
think he has hinted at something to that. I don't know if he's like walked out on that branch and like declared, but I think he's kind of like beat around the bush of like, this is something I would like to consider anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I've also heard, just to interject real quick, because I'm not sure if I heard this from Dakota or not. I've also heard the statement as in you can't compare sports card and investing to the stock market. So to draw that comparison.
Oh, no, yeah, 100%. No, you're right, Steve. I just mean like, you do want to, I mean, that's from like an investment standpoint, but like from an ownership standpoint, I still want to know how much I own. Like, we can look at a PSA 10 and say I own 10% of that population, but like we have no idea how many cards are out there. I think if you're buying this stuff, like, why not? Why wouldn't you want to know how much of it you own? I mean, I understand your point. Like, it may scare people off, but then that's just the companies need to run the business better, I guess.
Well, I mean, the thing, pop reports scare people off. I mean, that's why we talked about pop reports earlier, because people worry about pop reports. So, I mean, we have that as kind of a guideline as it is, and that's just strictly on graded cards. To only imagine what's not graded and what's out there, what hasn't even been opened as far as still in sealed wax. Yeah, for me, like, I just don't feel like I personally need a number.
But see, how awesome would that be?
I mean, we know it's not rare. You know what I mean?
How awesome would that be if, like, we knew, I'm just, we just say 2,000 Bowman Chrome Brady, that they printed 25,000. And if we looked across all pop reports, 20,000 had been, graded. Well, we know there's 5,000 raw out there. And then you can try to figure out how many boxes of sealed wax Bowman Chromes out there still. Like, I don't know. I think it would add a dimension to the hobby. And like, some people would use it and some people wouldn't. And that's fine. I wish they would print it. I wish they would, tell us how much the print runs are.
It would be interesting if you knew the print run. So say the print run was 10,000 of like a hot player, like a Zion or whatever, like whoever the next guy is. It would be interesting to see.
The only way you could ever trust it or truly track it, even through pop reports, through multiple different grading companies, through unopened wax, not knowing what's open, what is open, would be like on some sort of blockchain. But that's something that is not even developed yet.
I'm just gonna quick add my 2 cents because I'm gonna die soon. My phone's dying. But I think one of the reasons why people think that the video game industry is a little sketchy is because they don't have pop reports, right? With WADA.
They do now. They just rolled one out like a week, like literally in the last couple of weeks.
Sure. So it's been
prior to that.
Primed. Right, it's an area that was very prone for manipulation because there wasn't that information. So I think it would lead to a healthier market. Maybe there I go. I'm dying.
Oh no. Oh, rip to Filmington.
I think he's gone.
Also, I might be incorrect on this, but I don't think companies just do one print run. I think they continue to print product throughout. I don't think they say, hey, we're printing Prism. We printed it. It's done for the year. As much as they do print it in waves.
I think it depends on the product. And this was part of what I was going to say is it would be interesting, like in a Fanatics world or whatever, of, maybe you have a Topps paper, we'll just use that as an example, that is printed into the ground and there is no print run on it. It's just printed and it's always on the shelf at Target or Walmart or Sheets or, whatever it is that you walk into, you could find it on the shelf and buy a pack for your kids to rip. But maybe they also have something like, and this, I'll steal Select. They have a Select product that is hobby only, and they come out and say, we are making 10,000 boxes of this. That's it. And each box is serial numbered, and exactly, maybe they tell us there's 1,000 Zions in each product of, whatever, and then go into the tier levels or whatever. So I think there's a way you could actually have both, and that would work just fine.
I like this comment here from Teapot, especially when it comes to the pack odds. I used to love when I used to open wax, looking at my odds on pulling like an insert, like back in the 90s. A lot of the stuff that Dakota's been buying up, these football inserts and stuff like that, like looking at the pack and being like, man, this is 1 in 72 packs or 1 per box or 1 in 480 packs. That used to be fun because that when you hit one of those cards, it was like really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean,
we just get the term case hit now, and a case could vary in size.
Yeah, I really hate the expression case hit because it really doesn't tell us much. I feel like I talked about this recently. I feel like they're pulling one over on us with this Kaboom stuff because they're saying, oh, it's a case hit and it's rare. But you go to a show and you see like nothing but Kaboom and like every freaking table. It's like, I don't think it's as rare as you're telling me it is. I like pack odds a little bit better there. Yeah,
I think Kabooms were rare prior to this year.
Yes, definitely this year that changed it. Yeah.
And there's some great sets from the late 90s where if you are going to, and this is something that I do like. When I said, hey, I don't necessarily think I need I guess a completed print run of a product to tell me that it's not scarce or overprinted. But some sets that aren't necessarily super short print, but that are serial numbered. And I remembered like the 97, I think, is a totally certified, Pinnacle totally certified sets where like every card in the set was like serial numbered, and the base ones might have been serial numbered out of like 10,000 or 5,000, and you had red and you had blue, and they were really nice looking cards as well as being serial numbered on the back, but they weren't so rare that you couldn't obtain them. But you also knew that you had a nice looking card that was serial numbered to a certain extent.
Oh, that makes sense. Interesting. So let's swing in the grading here for a minute. So I did a grading predictions video the other day. So what do you guys see happening with the other companies as PSA? Because we all know PSA is going to get cheaper as the year moves throughout. They're teasing regular service. It's going to come back, or economy service. It's going to come back at some point in time. They're going to introduce lower tier services. We all know that they are as they clear their backlog. I know Dakota likes to argue how cheap that they'll get, but we can all agree that they're going to get less expensive than they are now. What kind of downward pressure does that put on an SGC, a BGS, a CSG, and then the fly-by-night companies, the HGAs, and like the other handful of 3-letter acronyms that are very tiny? I'll throw this one to Steve first.
So like some of the ones that, let's start with some of the ones that are very tiny, like you talked about at first. Even in the PSA market, I'm going to guess a lot of them have had a hard time gaining traction, even in the situation that we've been in. They might continue to have like a niche market, or maybe even people that just support them. Maybe they have enough supporters through whatever they do, whether it be social media or card shows or whatever, that are like, hey, I'm still going to go with this person because I support them, and maybe that's enough to keep them afloat. SGC, I still think there will be the card for the SGC slab, but then again, they are going to have to lower prices. The thing that I think is that, yes, PSA is going to lower prices, but turnaround times are still very important. It's not just always price point. It's how fast I'm going to get my card back. If PSA puts out a $50 or even comes down to a $30 charge, which is what SGC is at, but it's a 6-month turnaround, and SGC is still 30 days at $30, then again, SGC still has a leg up there. It's not strictly, okay, PSA is more valuable in the secondary market. PSA is the same price. But as you start checking off the list, now you're like, yeah, but I'm getting my cards back in 6 months from PSA as opposed to 30 days. Even if it's 3 or 4 months from PSA as opposed to 30 days. The windows in this market open and close so quickly that, sometimes being like, hey, I'd rather have an SGC slab than a PSA slab because I'm getting it back quicker is going to, get you some returns on your cards. And you're still going to have personal collection people out there that are going to strictly use the company that they want on their PC cards, which is going to be very important. I have certain cards that I've sent to SGC that I don't plan on selling because on some cards, I prefer the SGC slab and I don't care about the secondary market value.
Yeah,
and it's funny that I didn't even talk about BGS in that sentence because I think with BGS, it's very specific on what you need to send to them. Very specific, even more so than the other two companies.
BGS is such a, it's like the tool that you have to go to Lowe's to buy, and it's like $500, and you're only going to use it 2 times a year, but those 2 times that you need it, it's like really clutch. That's BGS, essentially. And that's a very good point about the the turnaround times are very important. Like how quickly are you getting the card back in your hand? And, to that point, if SGC gets a little less volume and does decrease prices, odds are they're going to get the card back to you even faster. If there's more cards going PSA's way and in this, theory that we're spinning.
I mean, right now,
SGC, cards even faster.
I mean, I saw the small announcement where SGC is at 22 business days on turnaround right now on their 30-day submissions. So that's like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's basically a month tops from including shipping to and from. Dakota, any grading hot takes?
Yeah, I think the small companies, they've either gain traction or they haven't. And I mean, they're probably all doomed, I guess. I think the one thing that they come into the hobby and have done is that they've promoted the idea of customization. I think we will see that carried forward. And PSA dropping prices is going to hurt the other big companies. I do think PSA is going to have a big competitor. And I actually have a video coming out in probably 3 weeks that might actually have some journalistic traits. I may have actually done some work and got some information from around the hobby on. So I'll save that and talk about it later. But, I don't think PSA is just going to be the king monopoly of grading. I think there's going to be some competition there. And I think it's probably going to be a little bit stiffer than we think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's, PSA might be the king, but is it the king? Is the gap going to be the same as what it once was? You know what I mean? Like they could still be the king, but it might only be a 20% premium instead of a 40% premium like it has been.
The thing is we all spend more time in the hobby and understand the hobby better, understand cards better. More people will have the perspective that Steve just shared, which is I don't care what the resale value is. I want it in this slab. I want it to look like this. I want it with this turnaround time. I want it from a grader that I trust and respect. And then so price, like Steve was saying, is one thing. Then there's turnaround time, resale value, and then I think also customability, the ability to customize your slabs and your cards. So
yeah, I want to address this comment real quick too from thank you, Bob Dillon. He says, in his opinion, PSA goes to much lower prices. Companies like SGC can only stay relevant if they add subgrades. And I'm going to argue the point that SGC's been around since '94. They're not just an upstart like company. Maybe it's 99, but I believe it's 94. Either way you look at it, they've been around since the mid to late 90s and have been grading cards. They've always had a spot in the hobby. Their spot in the hobby just grew with, the faults of PSA. But it wasn't like SGC has ever been in danger of being out of the hobby as far as a company that gets used. They were always strong in vintage. They were soft and ultra modern, and that's where they started gaining traction because people needed someone to grade their cards. Even if people don't want to use them that much anymore, for whatever reason it may be, everybody has their own reasons. They're still a company that's been around, for 25 plus years. And, so to say that the only way they can stay relevant is kind of a bit of a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, I think the only way you could argue that would be relevant in ultra modern, because prior to the PSA stuff, they were not relevant in ultra modern. They were very relevant in vintage.
And that's why I said they always had a spot in the hobby for the last 20 plus years. It's just they started gaining traction somewhere else. So if you want to specify which is kind of what I did. Yeah, you could specify, but I don't think they're the kind of company that's, oh my God, PSA just put them out of business type deal. Plus, PSA would probably buy them before they put them out of business.
Yeah, I think that already almost happened once, to be quite honest.
Neo, I'm gonna pop smoke here. Anything for me before I do?
You like a big
pop smoke means I'm gonna leave. Pop smoke.
Yeah, he's gonna throw like some ninja things down and
I guess.
Do you have like a?
We got pop reports and pop smoke.
I don't want to like step on anything that you might have coming out, but do you have like any couple big 2022 hot takes or whatever that you want to drop on the world?
I think I don't really have. I haven't thought this like through because I'm not going to do like a year-end review or like what I expect going forward. I do think we're probably going to see a lot of big changes faster than we expect. I think we'll probably see them inside of 2022 with all the Fanatics news and all that. I just don't understand. Like Panini and Topps, we all talk about it. They're just going to print crap into the ground because it's what's profitable for them. Well, Fanatics should not want to dilute the market like that. So I think it's in Fanatics' best interest to find a solution sooner rather than later with those guys. But we'll see.
So I'll ask you a question. Do you think Fanatics comes into play this year? Like, do you think we see a card produced by Fanatics, not necessarily Fanatics branded, but in partnership with Panini or Topps or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, I think we see that in 2022. Yeah.
Which grading company do you think makes the biggest leaps this year?
That is my journalistic thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll save. Yeah, we'll save that one.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I don't want to step on anything if you got something spicy coming.
Yep.
I'll give you one more. So we've sports cards went crazy, Marvel cards went crazy, comic books went crazy, F1 went crazy. Do you? And you're probably gonna say Pokemon, but do you? And that kind of already went crazy and was already retraced. But do you have any prediction for like what the next thing could be? And it might not even necessarily. It could be like a 3-month pop. The bubble goes up, people make a bunch of money, and then it all crashes back down again.
So, I mean, I talk about all the time. I don't chase these things like F1 or soccer. People always tell me, "Oh, you got to go buy soccer. You got to go buy WNBA. You got to go buy F1." I don't chase that stuff. I know what I know and I stick to it. I'm in the hobby because I enjoy it, and I enjoy what I enjoy. Right? I'm not really changing that up. I'm willing to experiment and try different things, but I don't watch soccer, so I'm not going to buy soccer. I think a lot of these explosions have come from the sneakerheads, from the people who are flippers, who just move from one thing to the other. And I think for the most part, a lot of those people have kind of left our market. I don't know that we really have those siloed explosions again. I think if anything, it's likely to be a specific player or a specific set inside of sports. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, Gremlin cards from 1980 just explode. I really don't see that again this year, but I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen. I have no prediction.
Gotcha. Anything you want to tease, then I'll let you get out of here. What do you got? Anything spicy dropping at the end of this week?
I got a fun video tomorrow. I worked on it today. Quarterbacks I'm buying. Whatever. I can't stop myself. When it comes to football cards, all I do is buy. So I'm doing that tomorrow. So
I will say today, your video was very good. I watched your video while I was cooking dinner. Your buy the card, not the grade video.
Well,
today.
Yeah, it was the argument for both, right? It's the reason why both are good. So
no, that was a very good video. I enjoyed that one a lot. So chat, if you did not catch that one, go check that over on Sports Cards Anonymous live stream. Friday night live and chill. Is that on this? Or is that
not this week? I actually haven't announced it.
New Year's Eve. That's right. I forgot.
It's just because of the holidays. I didn't do one last week or next week or this week, but I'll do one next week, and I might figure something out. But yeah, sorry, chat, all my chat guys. Appreciate y'all, but we're not going to do a live just because of the holidays. So.
Cool.
Now, are you starting up a secondary live with, or is that still in the works?
Well, so all right, I'll say it here. So me and DOA decided not to pursue it for a variety of reasons. For me, I have so much planned for my channel right now for this. I don't know what happened, but a lot of stuff sparked on my insides. That's why I got stuff planned for a month. And I was just like, for me, I'm not going to be able to put the effort into this stuff that I want to do like I want to right now. So, that's why when we talked about it, we decided not to, and he had his own reasons too. So, no. So I'm just going to keep my sports cards and chill. We're not doing another live stream, segment. So yeah.
All right, pop, smoke, and get out of here. Otherwise, I'll keep asking you questions.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for dropping in. Later,
Thanks,
Dakota.
Leo. Bye.
Later.
Steve. All right,
What's up?
the Pokemon boys out of here. Let's talk some comic books and Marvel cards. Oh goodness! So what did you get in? You got Mario, brother, and Luigi in today. What was the latest pickup? You got the voice.
That was a card that it was actually a card I won at auction last night. It's just a little oddball piece that I wanted to buy and keep. It's not like, hey, I think this is going to be worth a lot of money, but it was a Topps Allen and Ginter autograph card of someone named Charles Martinet, which a lot of people may not know that name. His name's Charles Martinet. It's numbered out of 25. It's pack pulled out of Allen and Ginter. So it's a nice, legit card. Anyway, he's just the voice actor for most of the Mario Brothers characters. Mario, he does the "It's a Me" Mario and thing and all the stuff from Mario Kart. He does Luigi's voice. He does Wario's voice. To me, I just thought it was cool because people have talked about the popularity of Nintendo cards. I don't have any other Nintendo cards. I have a couple Little Mac items, but that was stuff I bought for my PC. I don't have any other Nintendo cards, but I've heard people talking about them. Even card shop owners have heard talking about them. And it's like, what is a cool card that a lot of people might not even have known existed? So I just picked that up. Pop culture. Nintendo's just a giant brand,
Yeah. So your voice actor, I'm sure you saw these on IG. I picked up the some Star Wars. I got the Lars Mikkelsen from Rebels.
Oh yes,
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah,
and then I picked up the Ashley Eckstein, who voiced Ahsoka Tano in Rebels and Clone Wars. Who has a great like, how sick is that autograph? Where she incorporated her name's Ashley, and the character that she voiced is Ahsoka, and the way that she does her A is really cool because she signs both. She signs her name and she signs the character's name below it and uses the A for both. I just think that's really unique.
Yeah.
But I've been on a weird rabbit hole on Star Wars autos lately. Part of that was, this came up on the PWCC auction and I just saw it and was like, I absolutely adore that character. I didn't really know that this card existed. Let me buy it. And then, this Star Wars Stellar Signatures thing came out, which is like 20 grand a case or something ridiculous. And I've been looking at stuff on that all freaking week for singles. What is the first? Is 1965 the first year for Marvel cards? Someone asked in chat. I know that you know because you targeted some of that really old stuff.
There's 1975 Topps stickers, isn't it? There's 75 Topps stickers.
Isn't there one from the 60s though?
They are. So this is what the 1975 and 76 Topps stickers look like.
Yeah, I know there's those ones, but isn't there one that predates that though?
But there's one that predates that. But I think that the cards aren't necessarily like direct of the characters as much as there is like comic strips. They look like comic strips, and it'll have the character on there with a bunch of sayings and other people on them also. And there might be 10 of the same said character because it's a whole strip. So it might be like 1 through 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So which one would be considered their very first one? I guess maybe their number one, maybe their first card of that reel or whatever. I don't know. They're kind of tough to gauge those. I've seen them. I've looked at them. I think they're cool. I like the older, whether it's old or new. I like the oddball stuff, especially for me to collect. I have Marvel PMGs that I'm actually will sell, but like my 75 stickers is the type of stuff that I PC. I don't PC the high end stuff. That's the stuff I use to sell. And then
you should pony up and buy that box of 75 stickers on eBay.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of expensive.
I think it's just. I mean, how many of those boxes do you think exist?
Right. I saw a complete set at a comic book shop. There was a complete set for sale of the 75. I don't know if it's 75 and 76. They wanted like $300 for it. I almost bought it. The thing is that ungraded, they don't have a whole lot of value to them. So that's why I wouldn't want to spend that much money on a box, because if they don't grade well, they seem to not. Because you can buy raw copies of those 1975 stickers on eBay fairly cheap, like $8, $10, depending on the character.
Are you going for PSA set registry on that? I know that you have a bunch of them. Do you actually have it registered on the PSA set registry?
I do not. I haven't even thought about it. And I know the pop counts are really low. Now, that's not saying that they're rare. That's just saying that People just don't get them graded. When they do get them graded, though, they don't grade well. They discolor. 76, they're white, so they discolor their stickers. They get issues with the stickers where the stickers can separate from the face of the card. So
you should set registry those. That would be, I'd be interested to see like how many set registries are even out there for that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I've never thought of anything like that, but maybe if I continue to
you have a lot of them, don't you?
Yeah, I probably have. I've never counted them. I probably have at least 25 in PSA 9.
You should set. That's a good weekend project for you. Set registry those. So
Yeah.
a question from Paul: do you think Marvel cards continue to become more mainstream, or is this someone else below said, no, Marvel cards won't retain value, put money in the comics instead? So I'm going to ask a follow-up question regarding the comic angle, but just in general, I mean, PMG, I had Norin on last week. The PMG market's just insane, as you're well aware, because you bought some raw a long time ago and have had great success grading them with both SGC and I think you have some stuff at PSA too. Like, is the Marvel card market limited to the PMG side? Do you think it trickles down? Do you think this can hold? Like, what do you have good long-term outlook for Marvel stuff from an investment stand? I hate to use that word, but
well, it's Marvel, so it's pretty much forever. It's safe. I'm going to say it's safe. Now, when I say safe, I don't mean go buy a green PMG for $10,000. That's not what I mean. But I don't think that, especially on some of the limited sets that they have out there, that because right now, let's be honest, unless you're a Marvel card collector, which there's strictly Marvel card collectors out there. But if you're a sports person spilling into the Marvel world, what you know about Marvel cards is kind of what you're taking from the sports card world with you. So PMGs are popular in basketball cards, right? So of course that's going to be like one of the first things you chase. And that was my mentality when I bought them last year. I was looking at PMGs in sports and I was like, these are a lot of money. Is there anything out there in a PMG that's cheap? And Marvel was cheap. Come a year later, a lot of other people are now being like, I want to get into the Marvel market. What's the first thing I should go after? And they go after PMGs and it drives the market. It's trickling into the Jambalaya inserts. People want Kobe and Jordan Jambalaya cards. So when you get into the Marvel stuff, that demographic of people who's coming into Marvel are going to chase what they know from the basketball world and drive that market. So those things that have been driven right now, I look for a pullback on that stuff. Do I think those Marvel PMGs can hold these ridiculous prices, especially when more and more of them are starting to get graded? They're tough grades, don't get me wrong. They're serial numbered, but the prices right now are super high. We had a record-breaking sale on a Spider-Man, I believe. So,
yeah,
once you have a record-breaking sale, unless you continue to break records, which is impossible to do, you can't just break records every time, then it's going to be then it's considered a pullback, right? So there will be a pullback, I do believe, on this stuff that's super pumped right now. PMGs, Jambalayas, things like that. But there are lots of other nice sets and Marvel cards out there that are very limited, that look really good. And by no means am I an expert when it comes to Marvel cards or cards in general, but even so, Marvel cards, because like I know there's sketch cards. That's something I don't really get into a lot because it could be a one of one, but it might not be an artist that's popular, or it's got to be special to that one person that wants to buy it. If it's a one of one, say, sketch card of somebody, I don't know how the market on that, and I've talked to people in the Marvel cards, is completely different. Do I think that there's still some sets out there in Marvel that have room to grow? I definitely do, because it's the trickle-down effect of when you can't afford a PMG or a Jambalaya, what's the next awesome-looking sort of scarce thing that you're going to get into? So, the rising tides thing, I do think will apply in both ways to Marvel cards. Rising tides and lowing tides will both apply, through a window, just like it does with sports. But Marvel, I say it's safe because it's iconic. It's an iconic brand. It's owned by Disney now. They're going to do everything they can do with it. You're going to see characters in movies and on television shows that you've never seen before, unless you're a comic buff. Okay. But people who don't know the storylines or certain characters from that, because they don't follow comic books, are going to be introduced to some people for the first time. So my wife, for example, if she goes and watches a movie with me, sometimes, which she does, but sometimes she won't know a character because she didn't follow the comic books like I did growing up. Everybody knows the household names, but say for instance, you're watching the Hawkeye. If you're watching the Hawkeye series and Echo shows up, unless you follow Daredevil and Echo and stuff in the comics, you don't know who that is. But now all of a sudden she's on television. So that's how I look at how the Marvel market can grow in cards, especially when you're looking at people who just look at the main screen and the big screen to tell them who's popular.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot what you're saying. So you're a perfect person to ask this follow-up question too, because you collect a little bit of everything. You're in sports cards, you're in comics, and you dive into Marvel cards. And I had a very interesting conversation with someone that's very big in the Marvel card side of things offline. Would you? So your favorite character is Doctor Strange, correct?
Yes.
So would you rather have? I don't remember if he's in 2013 Fleer Retro or not. Whatever his first year green PMG would be, say in like a PSA 9 would probably be.
There's a red.
Okay, so there's a red. So would you rather have that in like a red PSA 9 or a green PSA 8 or 9 out of 10, whatever? Or would you rather have his first appearance in whatever the equivalent cash value of that card would be in a CGC slab? Would you rather have the actual comic book of his first appearance, or would you rather have the green PMG out of 10?
Okay, so I would rather have the green PMG. Now,
interesting.
That doesn't apply across the board to all comic books. The only reason is because it displays better. Okay, so Doctor Strange's first appearance, what issue is that? Strange Tales. It's slipping my mind right now. His first solo title I have in a high grade.
Yeah, I knew you had that one already.
And I love that one because I love the cover. That's 169. That's Strange Tales. What's no longer Strange Tales. It's the first solo title, Doctor Strange 169. Strange Tales converts into Doctor Strange, the comic book. But that one, I love the art. I love the cover. It's just amazing looking. Maybe that book in a 9.8 I might prefer, because we're talking from a PC standpoint. Is a green PMG of Doctor Strange in 2013 raw. I bid on one. I bid $3,600 and I lost. So
what did it go for?
It went for $3,650.
How long was this? Recently, or was it a while ago?
This was probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. The same seller was selling the 2013 and the 2015. Well, actually had a rainbow of 2013 and 15. Not a complete rainbow with the gold and the purple, but had a green, a blue, and a red all for sale. All three Stranges, or those three Stranges from 2013 and those three Stranges from the 2015. I bid on the green from 2013. I lost it. I lost on a $3,600 bid. I got outbid. I then missed the blue because they were all going off like within seconds of each other. I then bid on the red and I won the red. So I won the red for like 500 and change. That's at PSA right now. I have another red here in front of me that's a PSA 8. The green from 2015 went for over 4,000. Now, that card has since been graded with BGS and reposted on eBay because I've seen it for sale. It's the same one. It's the same serial number. So that the winner who won that at 4K sent that, express to BGS. They got an 8.5. They put it back on eBay, listed at 10,000. Then a couple days passed and they listed it. They started lowering the price to where I think it got to like 7,900 by it now. And now it's gone. I think somebody bought it. Now I can't find the actual sale.
Probably a private sale.
From what I understand is that it was sold. So an 8.5 on the 2015 green PMG Doctor Strange just went for sale for, I'm going to say, close to $7,000, $7,000 to 7,500 probably.
See, I would rather have the comic first appearance than a PMG almost 100 times over 100.
If the comic book had a really nice picture of Doctor Strange and stuff on the front, because this is for PC, not investment. For investment purposes, give me the Doctor Strange book.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Two different answers depending on which
yes,
makes complete sense.
From investment purposes, and as far as being concrete, like I've said this in the past, I don't think there's any more of a concrete investment than Silver Age comic book keys. And even maybe some other comic book keys, but Silver Age comic book keys, even when we saw the softening in comic books, the same way we have seen across cards, I went and started looking up some of the prices of some of my Silver Age comics, being like, oh my gosh, these have probably had the bottom fall out of them. And they were actually up. Believe it or not, they were up. My Doctor Strange 169 that I have in an 8.5, I bought it when the market was hot, actually, for about $500. And stuff started coming down. A lot of the Spider-Man keys that I had, like the Carnage and stuff that I had sold off, those prices started coming down. And I was like, oh man, I sold a lot of that stuff. Maybe I should have sold all of it. And then when I looked up my Doctor Strange, and the reason I held the Doctor Strange and didn't sell then was because it was an item I'm attached to. And it had actually like doubled in value, even though we've seen the pullback on Amazing Spider-Man 361. We've seen a small pullback on Amazing Spider-Man 300. Now, I don't know. I haven't checked that since we've seen the new Spider-Man movie. I don't know if that comic is getting hot again or not.
Last ones I've seen, because I track that one pretty closely, I kind of view that as like, that's like one of the ones that I always look at for the general health of the comic book market. They're still going for about 6K. So they're down from their high. You know, they got to 8K during their peak, you know, and they have pulled back. 365, the first appearance of Carnage, took a bloodbath because that's a really high pop book, and that movie bombed.
Right.
And it really hurt the price on that. Filmington, are you into any non-sports card investments, whether it's comic books or pop culture or movies or anything like that? Or on the collectible side of things, or are you just sports cards only?
Pokemon cards a little bit. Trying to learn more about Magic, but non-card stuff, not a whole lot. I defer to you guys there.
To put that back into perspective really, really quickly, that Amazing Spider-Man 300 is from the 90s, early 90s, maybe?
Yeah, but it's a tough grade.
Yeah, it's a tough grade. No, I'm not. And I talked about vintage or 70s Silver Age stuff, late 60s being pretty concrete. But if we compare that to, and there's no way you can compare an Amazing Fantasy to a Spider-Man PMG. But I mean, look at the Spider-Man PMG 2013 Red that's currently on auction right now. It's pushed over $7,000. That's already pushed over the price of what you can get, you know, an ASM 300 9.8 at. So again, for a Spider-Man collector, and not just a comic book collector, a Spider-Man collector, what I don't know, would they prefer that book? I guess if you're already a big time Spider-Man collector, you own that book because it's probably one of the first books you target, and there was a time when it was cheap. But
cheap in air quotes.
Yeah, but then you get, you have a PMG, like I said, right now, and a PSA 8 of Spider-Man in a red. You know, we're not even talking about greens or blues. We're talking about out of 100, you know, setting record sales, and one on auction right now over 7,000. What would you do if you were a Spider-Man collector and had neither?
So what brought this up, and I'm going to, speaking of Marvel cards, and he comes out of the woodwork, Kenny Fornos, first time on the channel. What's up, Kenny? What brought this discussion up with the person I was having it with was the red Spider-Man PMG sale that went on Golden. I said, would you rather have that? What did that Kenny, Steve, what would that go for, like 80K or something? I think it was. What did the red Spider-Man go for? The record breaker. Was it like 80K?
I don't know the record breaker. What was the grade on the record breaker?
PSA 9.
That was a 9.
Yeah. Whatever it went for, say 80K. My argument was, would you rather have the equivalent of an AF-15, which was like a 3.0, I think, on, which one would you rather have on that? And to me, it was the AF-15, and it wasn't even close, whether it was for investment purposes or as a fan of the character.
Oh, yeah. If you spin it to that book, if you spin it to an AF-15, then yeah, I'm going to take the AF-15.
Kenny, I know you're not a big comic book guy. I know me and Steve are trying to entice you to the dark side, but you are a big PMG guy and a big Marvel card, very interested in it. would you rather have not? And I know that this is kind of an unfair question because you're not as big into the comic book side of things. What would you rather hold? Would you rather have the PSA Red Spider-Man 9, or would you rather have an actual Amazing Fantasy 15 first appearance of Spider-Man, which is the current record holder on the comic book side of things for prices?
The first appearance, 100%.
And that's coming from someone that is you are a big fan of the PMGs. So
like no question, first appearance.
We'll throw one in Filmington's wheelhouse so he doesn't fall asleep here. Filmington, what the hell with Mike Trout?
I want to talk about PMGs because I'm curious about that. Because
we can circle back that you could pump us with questions. Go ahead, but we'll not bore the chat and throw a sports one out there, and then we'll swing back to Marvel stuff.
Okay.
So is Trout toast? Is this it, or is this PSA 10s coasters? Like, what are we doing?
I think he's probably in the decline phase of his career, but I don't know what that means, and I don't know what the acceleration of that is. So if people recall, he was actually very good this past year before he got injured. He's clearly not contributing from a defensive perspective anymore. He might not be making errors, but he doesn't have the advanced metrics that comprise the defensive portion of WAR for Fangraphs and Baseball Reference. He's kind of hurting you there. So he's probably not going to put up 9 to 10 WAR seasons again. But does that mean he's not going to win another MVP? No, he very easily could. And the competition is weaker probably in the American League still versus the National League, I would argue. All it's going to take is an Ohtani injury, and it's open. It's open for everybody again. And Ohtani's prime might be over with, and Trout could still be contributing. So it's really tough to say. Nobody's got a crystal ball. His prices are down right now, but I don't think they've baked in the fact that he's been injured in like 4 of the last 5 seasons, and he's missed time in all of those. And that was really his prime. Now, granted, I think in 2 of those 5 seasons he did win MVPs, so that's something to be said for that. But I mean, all hitters once they start turning the corner on the other side of 30. We saw it with Pujols. We saw it with Miguel Cabrera. And you could say that Mike Trout's a different mold. He's built differently. Maybe Pujols was helped by some foreign substance, and maybe Trout's doesn't have to worry about that, losing that type of substance. And maybe that'll keep him more effective. But we don't really know. So I wish I could tell you. I think 2-3 years ago, the hobby was comparing him to Mickey Mantle. But now 2020 wasn't his fault because he didn't miss, it's not his fault that he missed those games, but he also didn't finish top 5 in MVP voting. And he didn't finish top 5 this past year either because he was injured. And I think that's kind of hurt. And that's kind of hurt his ability to compare to one of the top 5 all-time hitters when all said and done. I would argue if he stopped playing today, he'd be a Hall of Famer, probably not first ballot, but I think he's got the WAR, 3 MVPs, a decade of dominance. Compare him to their pitchers, but Pedro Martinez, Sandy Koufax, kind of what they did. But that's not enough. And to keep his hobby high, and to keep him as that generational / GOAT type player, he does have a floor because of that decade of dominance. But I think a lot of people that are owning his cards want a little bit more from him. So we'll see.
Can I have a quick question for Filmington really quick?
Yeah, go for it, Steve.
It's an Albert Pujols question. And we know, how his career took a turn for the worse after he left the Cardinals. But do you think that if he comes back, with the Dodgers or for a season, whether who picks him up or whatever, a chase for 700 home runs can drive some hype and maybe drive his cards a little bit? Where a lot of people might not even realize the significance of 700 home runs. And just that being on the news and the media and generating some buzz for baseball as a whole, if you're watching one game and everything's cut into Albert Pujols' at-bats or something like that. Like back, I remember the Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire race, and they were cutting to their at-bats and how much attention that put on the sport and basically saved the sport at that time. And at least in television ratings, can you see something like that, possibly a scenario where that could happen in Albert Pujols?
Yeah, so the statistical milestones for baseball, they still matter a lot. I would argue that they matter a little bit less now with Geek Stats, with WAR. For instance, if Trout doesn't get to 600 home runs, I don't think that'll be a make or break thing for him. But 700 home runs, what, 3 players have gotten there? 4?
I think 4, yeah.
So I think that could drive some short-term hype and long-term hype because he'd be one of very few that has gotten there. Now, what annoys me about Pujols is if you were to take his last like 5 seasons, he's posted basically a WAR of 0. So he's been kind of a useless player. And there's something to be said for a guy like David Ortiz, who left on top. Probably took some PEDs. There's people out there that think Pujols did too, though. But perception is reality, and more people believe that Pujols did it in a clean way, which matters a lot, I think. So back to your question, yeah, I think it could help. Like as a fan, I kind of want him to retire because I don't think he's really adding value at any teams. With the Dodgers, they gave him credit for some intangible type stuff. I don't think another year on the Dodgers or like a big market team is really going to help his upside. But I think, yeah, the 700 home runs, that could be a thing. He's done. Like, just sit down.
Actually, I think he would be number 4. I think it's only Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth in that order.
Yeah.
I believe.
Makes sense.
I guess I would kind of relate it to, like, I remember when Emmitt Smith broke the all-time rushing record, but I felt like he wasn't being very effective for his team. He kind of hung around until he could do it. I'm probably going to get blasted by Cowboys fans. There's a lot of them out there, and they're diehard. But I remember that with Emmitt Smith at the time, at the moment. I remember being like, man, he should be retired. He's only hanging around to break Walter Payton's record. I still remember move over sweetness, make us place for Emmett or whatever the announcer said. And I just felt like at the time it felt diluted. But now, fast forward to where we're at now, I don't think a lot of people look at it that way. They're like, Emmitt Smith is the all-time rushing leader. You know what I mean?
True.
And they don't look at how he got to it.
Yeah. But with Pujols, people always remember, like, he sucked for the last 10 years of his career because it was so extreme. Where you have like Ovechkin and LeBron that are coming towards big-time statistical accomplishments within their sport. They're still above average players today. And maybe when they break those records, they'll still be at least average, where Pujols has been below average for at least 5 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
Do any of you guys chase hockey? Since you mentioned Ovechkin. Kenny, do you buy any hockey cards at all?
Gretzky autos. I actually just bought a Gretzky ticket, his final game ticket on eBay the other day. I think
graded already or just a raw?
Just the raw one. I think the Gretzky stuff is still cheap, extremely cheap, compared to like McDavid. I mean, McDavid stuff is out of this world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ovechkin stuff's like I was looking at. I mentioned it earlier. I was doing a lot of data research on like 1 year, like going back 1 year, like what cards have actually stayed up over the last 365 days. And you look at Ovechkin's chart, and it's just like this. His like PSA 10 Young Guns was like 2K last year. It's like 9K right now or something stupid. It's insane how much this stuff has gone up. Huh?
It shot up that much.
It's like 7.5 AK, I think, for Young Guns.
PSA 9s on Card Ladder are around 3,500 right now, maybe higher.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember at the Dallas Card Show in May that was 4K.
Wow. It's
remember that? You remember the RPA? I had an RPA that I was trying to move at the Dallas show, and we didn't know how to comp it. It was an Alexander Ovechkin upper deck rookie patch auto. Now, it wasn't like the SPL Authentic big time one, but it was pretty good. And we were trying to comp it. And I was like, well, the Young Guns is going for 4K right now. It's the way we were looking at it in a PSA 10. And I was trying to get 2,500 for this Ovechkin. And I was getting shot down by a lot of people. People were interested, but they didn't want to do 25K or 2,500, not 25K, 2,500 I was trying to get, which now feels cheap.
Yeah, hockey gets
to go for today.
Hockey gets a bad rap because it's like, oh, it's a small market and it's regionalized, it's US only, and the card market's never been big, but like having such a great base of collectors, loyal collectors versus flippers, that gives you like a really nice floor and kind of lessens the chance of volatility, which you get with like basketball and football, which we've seen over the last few years. So I think if you were to pour your money into hockey like a year ago or a year and a half ago, versus any other sport, and you pick McDavid and Ovechkin, maybe other, I don't know.
I think if you want any of them, McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby,
future watch autos, the cup for Ovechkin, and I don't know all the inserts, but the Young Guns, as you guys are talking about, those have absolutely killed it. Like, because I actually calculated my P&L this year, and I looked at all sports. And I only own 2 hockey cards, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
I literally outperformed all other sports in hockey.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking about, you know, before your battery died, we were talking about like the whole pop count thing, like what is actually low pop, what's not. Hockey stuff's legitimately low pop because it's not printed that. You know, the print is not there. They're not printing it to the moon like they are basketball and baseball cards because it is a smaller market. So you look at PSA 10 pop counts on like Ovechkin, Crosby, like those sorts of guys, especially from 10 plus years ago. There's really not a lot of them out there, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, hockey could be. I mean, hockey stuff has been going up. I don't want to sit here and be like hockey's going to be the next thing to go crazy, but I mean, I could potentially see hockey going next level. It doesn't really take much when the pop counts are a lot lower on that stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I've already seen that surge though. Like people have already bought into hockey heavy at every big show. But I mean,
yeah, I don't go to a lot of the big shows, so.
But I mean, it could just go even more to the moon. Because honestly, like at the National, I thought F1 was like peaked because you know we saw that big sale. Like I was there for the big F1 sale. Like I saw the big F1 sale. I was like, wow, I don't know if it can get higher than that, and then to the moon. So I mean, it could be the same thing with hockey. Could be the same thing with PMGs.
Yeah, PMGs and F1 are kind of almost an interesting comparison because the fan base behind both of them is very rabid. And even though the prices are extremely high, the pop counts are so low. You could almost like there's a path that you could actually see it maintaining itself. Like F1 might not crash to zero. Could it pull back a little bit? Sure. But that stuff's rare enough, and especially in high grade, that you only need a handful of buyers to keep the prices propped up.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. You probably know F1 better than any of us, Kenny. I don't really know it at all, but
I just watched the sales firsthand because of the people that I'm around.
that's more than me.
Yeah. But I don't know anything about F1, honestly.
Yeah. Have you dove into F1 Filmington at all? Or are you just like, nah, no thanks?
No, you know, even soccer, and I've done soccer a bit, and I know Steve knows soccer the most probably of at least the 3 of us. I'm not sure about you, Kenny. But some of those markets scare me a bit where I question the proportion of the people that are buying the cards that actually follow the players and the teams and actually watch the sport. Like obviously I know soccer is huge and F1 they're huge and they're potentially ginormous card markets, but they just seem sort of like bubble territory to me. A bit, not saying that they're going to crash tomorrow or next week or next year or ever, but it seems like a lot of people are trying to get on the bandwagon and creating this like huge hype bubble for kind of both of those. And at least the soccer, you've got the World Cup coming up. You've got the World Cup coming to the US pretty soon. But again, like with soccer, and I know I'm kind of changing subjects, but I question how many people in other countries are actually buying these cards. And I question how many of the people in this country are actually a fan of soccer that are owning these cards. So, and F1's kind of similar a little bit.
No, that makes a ton of sense.
As someone who has sold quite a bit of soccer cards myself online, I'm going to be honest, I haven't shipped much overseas. So if that is kind of a little bit of some sort of minuscule gauge, I mean, at least the amount of selling that I have done hasn't been much. Yeah, I don't recall doing hardly any international shipping. Mainly it's sales in the U.S.
Do you include international shipping on a soccer card?
I mean, when somebody buys something off me where I'm sending it to them.
Like on eBay? You know how you have to click?
Well, that'll be the I include that because that sends it to eBay's place in Kentucky or whatever.
Gotcha.
So I would know that that's international because I know it's going to that Kentucky distribution center or something for eBay.
Now, a lot of times you'll sell, like I noticed this with NBA when NBA was really hot last year. When I was selling on eBay a lot, it would be a U.S. buyer, but it would go to that same weird address in Portland or whatever that I'm sure we've probably.
My most overseas sales have been Pokemon cards. Most of the ones that
Pikachu train
I printed out so many labels that go to that Kentucky center for Pokemon that I have anything else.
Interesting.
That's interesting. And that's modern or is it vintage or?
That was when I was selling my 1999 like base unlimited hollows and stuff. I found them when I was a kid and I sent them and got them graded because I never played the game. They just went straight from pack to top loader. So they all come back graded really good. 8s, 9s, and 10s. My Charizard only got a 9, but I sold it. But that stuff went like a lot of that went overseas. But also also in the Pokemon market, that's also my most difficult people when it comes to backing out of a sale.
You had a legendary rant on this about how they bug you about condition and stuff.
10%,
more so than
probably
any
even
other
less
buyer.
of everything I sold last year. 5%. It was probably 5% of everything I sold last year was probably Pokemon, and it was the one that I had the most people asking for. Can I get 20 more pictures of that card? I'm like, it's in a PSA 9 slab, and it looks good. There's already 8 pictures. Can I get 20 more pictures? And then they buy it and immediately be like, sorry, I didn't mean to bid. I bought another one. Buy it now. Can you take it away? And I'll be like, you just bought, it literally just ended. And then ones where people will not pay me for like a week and things like that. So Pokemon, I'm glad like pretty much all my Pokemon is gone, and it's not necessarily a market I want to get back into. Not because I don't think that there's potential. I just don't feel like dealing with and I'm not trying to give Pokemon buyers a bad name or anything. I'm just talking about my few personal experiences.
So Dakota was buying all your cards and he was giving you crap for it, is what you're saying?
Man, I'm not trying to rant. I'm annoyed with eBay. I got a quick eBay story. This was going to be a live drive. I bought a card last Tuesday, so a week. So 7 days have surpassed. I realize we've had holidays, but this card could have went out. I paid for it Tuesday night, so it could have went out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now I understand Christmas was Saturday, Sunday was the post office is closed. It could have went out yesterday. It still didn't go out. So I messaged the person. I said, when do you plan to ship this? They said it'll go out on Thursday. So that's 9 days to the day that I've paid for it. Not only that, it cost me $30 shipping priority. They charge me priority shipping and insurance, $30 for the card. Why are you going to ship it priority and wait 9 days to send it? You could have shipped it first class last week for $5 and I would have had it already.
That's crazy.
Man.
But I got such a good deal on the card that I don't want to complain and be like, what the hell is up with the shipping deal? And them all of a sudden be like, oh, just forget it. And be like, and then send eBay lost or stolen or damaged. And then I won't get the card. I'm going to wait to complain.
The card, then you leave that, and you leave the neutral feedback of took 9 days to ship.
I mean, if they wanted to be like, sorry, we didn't get it out last week, we'll refund you half of the shipping cost, $15 or something. Not like $15 is going to make or break. It's just it's the point. You know what I mean? It's like
they could have sent it with, what is that, Postman with Kevin Costner where he has the horse delivering mail or whatever. They could have sent it that way. You would have had it faster.
I showed this on Instagram. I bought this John Wayne relic card, right? Numbered out of 25. It's pretty sweet. It's kind of stuff I've been buying. And I got it in like 3 days. Like I bought that other card days before I bought this.
Some stuff I get
this
lightning
arrived
fast.
yesterday.
Some stuff takes forever. Some stuff I've been buying, I've been getting lightning fast, and then other stuff I buy takes forever. I don't know.
Well, see, I looked at the $30 shipping charge, and I'm excited about this card. I really am. So I was like, I'll pay the $30 shipping because it says priority mail. I'm like, that means at least I'm going to get it quick.
It's not
It's still sitting in their desk or on their house. It's not even in the mail yet. I don't even got a tracking number.
I'm going to guess this is a non-sports card. You don't have to reveal what it is, but
It's
I assume this is it is a sports card.
Well, it depends on if you
I think
classify
you
it.
still bought those.
It's
a Dale Earnhardt card.
Okay,
That's a sports card.
Yeah, that's a sports
It's a Dale Earnhardt card. It's the one I showed you on Instagram. I was so happy when I got it. I was like, I finally landed the grail of Dale Earnhardt autos.
Oh, nice. So is that run complete? You're tapped out on Dale Earnhardt now, or will you still?
Well, here's the thing. I was buying up his autos because they're just not out there. Kenny knows that. I've talked about it. And so I have lower end ones. Now my thought process is if I want to move off some of these low end ones and recoup the price that I paid, recoup some of what I paid for this last one. But this last one I didn't even pay that much for. I got such a good deal. That's why I'm like patient with the shipping and stuff. But I just want it.
$30 for shipping. Holy smokes.
$30. Jesus. I hate
comic books don't cost that much to ship.
I live in Delaware, and I think it's coming from like Pennsylvania. I could have drove up there and picked it up by now for free.
Oh,
yeah. Kenny, what's your next big show? What's next? Vegas or Atlanta? Like, wasn't there a couple big January shows coming?
We'll be in Dallas on the 13th through the 16th.
Oh, that's right. Dallas is coming up. And then, are you going to Vegas too, or the Mint? Or
I'm not sure. I don't think I'll go to that one.
Are you Filmington? You're going? Well, you're kind of going to that, right? You're like fake going to the Mint.
Yeah, so my friend scheduled a bachelor party, and I'm like, why the hell would you schedule a bachelor party in Vegas in January? It's like literally the worst. Like Steve probably knows this. He's a casino guy, so it's literally the worst time to go to Vegas. Highs in like the mid 50s. All of the like the pool parties for me, that's like the fun thing to do in Vegas. They don't start up till like mid April, and they close in like late or early October. So it's one thing to go in like the off season. We're going like the dead of the off season. And then I saw like the Mint Collective, and I'm like, oh geez, like that's pretty.
Yeah,
that's
Vegas
a pretty.
is desert.
Yeah, I had no idea it was
It's the
during that
extreme
weekend.
of one temperature to the next.
Right.
I mean, to be
You go
fair,
in the
50
summer,
in
it's
Vegas
cooking
is
hot.
going to be better than what you're dealing with in Massachusetts in January.
Yeah, slightly maybe, but yeah, I mean, I like to go to Vegas in like April, May, September, October, where it's not like 110. You know, might reach like 98, but it's dry heat at least. But like this
Yeah,
55 stuff, like will we even walk outside? But you know, it's a great group of guys. We're gonna rent a suite at the Cosmopolitan, Marriott affiliate, so I get like a ton of points for doing that, and it's my brand name I go with usually. And yeah, we're gonna check out some cars, exotic cars, and maybe the Mint Collective. So the guys I'm with, a few of them have been in my videos before, and they collected when they were younger, but they're not like immersed in the hobby like even 10% like we are. So maybe I can like try to pry one of those guys out for like one event, or maybe like I probably none like the speaker stuff, like they won't understand, but maybe like one of the shows. Looks like there's going to be like some shows in between. The way that the agenda is like drawn out, it's hard for me to understand like what's the show and what's not, because everything's got like this weird name to it. So I might have to ask some people for that. But yeah, I plan on at least making an appearance.
Steve, do you have a big show that you're targeting on the horizon? Like, what's your next? Do you have a travel show on you're setting your sights on?
Probably Atlanta. It was originally the Vegas
collision.
one that Filmkin was just talking about. But then when I started looking into it, I started seeing how all there were different events and all the different names for things. Like he just said, as soon as he said there was different names for different events, it was kind of hard to follow. I was like, that's exactly what I thought when I looked at the website. Dallas, I would love to go to, but it's such short notice that I don't think I can get the time to leave work, you know, with the staffing issue. We have staffing issues right now anyway, but so Atlanta being in February, I've never been to Atlanta, period. So I would like to go to the city. I would like to go to that show because I guess it's comics and cards, right?
So I asked about this last time. It was spun that way, but there was very little comic books on the show floor. I talked to Sam. I had her on the channel right after that show, and she said there was very little. There was some comics, but not as many as kind of what was advertised. Now that might change for this one, but
even so, it might be a good show. I think as far as just strictly show, Dallas is probably the best place to go. It's probably not overcrowded. You probably find good deals. Probably find a really good variety. The last Dallas show I went to was in May, and it was packed. That was like the mini national one. I would like to go to a Dallas that was a little less packed with people, however, would still have all the same setup. Yeah, Atlanta is next on my radar. It's not a definite, but I would like to go to Atlanta.
plus Atlanta's easy to get in and out of. Cheap flights. There's a billion flights to Atlanta.
It's not a long flight for me either.
Yeah. Kenny, what's the vibe for the Dallas show? What do you think is going to be the? It seems like Dallas show always has a player or players that kind of come out of it. Are you getting a vibe for anything on what you're thinking this Dallas is going to be? Is this going to be like a GOAT show or a buy the dip on Ultra Modern, or what are you feeling?
I think everybody's buying Tom Brady and Steph Curry right now, honestly, at every show. So I mean, I think everybody's just going to be buying that again, like always. But I mean, it is supposed to be pretty packed. I mean, like the group rate was sold out, so I'm not staying at the convention center like I typically do. Like I'm staying across the bridge, which kind of, now I can't just leave trade night and just go upstairs. Now I gotta order an Uber, and but still, it's like that hasn't happened. Like I typically can book 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance, and you get the group rate to stay there, but it's completely sold out. That doesn't really happen, at least in my experience.
That's interesting. I wonder if this one's going to be, because I'm trying to. What's the last big show that we had?
Philly.
Is that considered like that's not considered like Dallas level though, right?
Eh,
Philly's
either
a nice
Philly
sized show, but again,
or gone, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's so tucked up in the Northeast that it doesn't necessarily get the type of traffic, even though it's a decent show. Philly.
Was the last Dallas show super busy or was it more low key?
It was pretty busy. It wasn't like super packed, but it was still busy.
So what you're expecting this one to be crazier than the last one?
I do think so, actually. I mean, I think everybody's probably saved their after Christmas money, I believe, and I mean, I'm still kind of mad I can't stay at the convention center, so it better be good if I can't stay there.
Has anyone booked national stuff yet? I haven't.
No,
I have not.
What's the so I have not been to a national Atlantic City. Is the play just stay at a casino and just deal with the back and forth to the convention center? Because there's no close hotels, right? You're just kind of screwed.
I don't know the exact. I haven't looked the exact location of where the national is going to be held yet. So you do have casinos. Okay, you have lots of casinos on the Atlantic City Boardwalk, but then you do have casinos sprinkled in a few blocks. You have Harrah's, you have the Borgata, which are actually your bigger casinos now. The stuff on the boardwalk took a hit with the economy years back, and with the expansion of casinos opening up everywhere, Atlantic City took a huge hit. It's no longer like it used to be a tourist destination. It's not really now. Lots of casinos actually on the boardwalk shut down. Trump Plaza was just demolished, taken to the ground because it was vacant. But if it's held at one of the inner convention centers that's a couple blocks in, then you're probably going to want to look at Harrah's or the Borgata, which are your two actually higher end casinos that still get lots of play in Atlantic City. And I don't think it's near the boardwalk. But when you're looking at Atlantic City in comparison to any other like venue or any other host city, it's just long and skinny. It's like along the coast. It's not big and open like Dallas or like Chicago or whatever. So everything is going to be, all your places to stay are going to be blocks north or blocks south, as opposed to, it's hard to explain it like this, but you could be pretty far from it if you're like on the south end of the boardwalk in a casino on one of those. Because with it being, it's like driving across Tennessee. If you've ever driven across Tennessee, you're like, you enter Tennessee and you're like, yes, I'm almost to Nashville. No, you're not. If you're coming from the east, you still got, actually, it takes me longer to get from the east side of Tennessee to Nashville than it does take me to get from Delaware to Tennessee. So it's kind of like that. You can be far from, if it's in the north side of Atlantic City and you're staying in a hotel on the south end of the boardwalk, it can be a long ways.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to hurt some of the. I really like the Chicago vibe just because everyone's kind of condensed. Even if you're split across multiple hotels, like almost everyone's within walking distance to wherever the hot spot is.
And the other thing that I've thought about is the people flying in. I don't know is the closest airport going to be Philly? It's going to be the closest big international airport is going to be Philly. So you're going to have a little bit of a hike.
Yeah,
from
and
the airport.
It's like 45 minutes drive, and that's like assuming no traffic. So you're probably looking at an hour plus. So, and then you have proximity challenges from people coming from like the West Coast and stuff. But yeah, like Steve was laying out, it's probably not going to be like Chicago where like 80% of the people that are staying are going to be able to walk to it. A lot of people are going to have to take Ubers, but it might be a mile and a half. Like, and with, even though it's not the tourist destination it used to be, Atlantic City, there's still a lot more demand to go to Atlantic City in July, August versus Rosemont in July, August. So I think it's in your interest to book the hotel sooner rather than later because you're going to be looking at higher costs generally.
Yeah, that is going to be a thing. July and August are prime months in Atlantic City. That's prime time because it's beachfront. So you're going to have lots of people people do go there for the beaches and stuff like that. So that time of year, when I was just talking about it not being as desirable to go to anymore, I was kind of talking about it in the off season, because in the off season, all it had really to offer was the casinos and resorts. And now those casinos are popping up in every state now. So it's kind of like, the people that used to go to Atlantic City from the South now actually come to the casino I go to. And then there's 3 in the state that I live in. And now you have Chester, Philly Harrah's there in Chester. I mean, if you're coming from the South, there's multiple casinos now that you can hit before you get to Atlantic City.
So
you'll be broke by the time you get there.
I know the pandemic, whatever the hell the situation will be by the time the National rolls around, could skew this question, but let's just pretend that things are at least like they were last year for the National. Do you think this National has more, the same, or less attendance than last year's Chicago one? I'll go with Kenny first.
Probably the same, or I'd say the same to more.
So, like, give or take, 5% either way or whatever, but around the same. How about you, Filmington?
I'd say less, just based on location alone and convenience. But even if it was in Chicago again, I'd probably say a little bit less, just because of where the hobby will be. And it's okay. Every industry operates in some sort of curve. So I just think the hype won't be as big next summer, and that's completely fine for the hobby.
Yeah. Steve?
I'm going to say less also. Multiple reasons. Again, the location isn't ideal. Also, the hobby has slowed down. We've talked about it earlier, how there's probably certain people that were in the hobby during the National that are no longer in because they were just in temporarily. And then also, we had a National this year. We had one in 2021. I think the one in 2020 was canceled, right? So you're talking about all that buildup and all that people wanting to get to a National. That may have been people that go every other year because that's all that they can do. And then the year that they were going to go in 2020 gets canceled. And now everybody is at 2021. So not only do you have the location, the slowing in the hobby, you also have the fact that we had one last year. And to some people, they might, that might be their fix, and they'll be good for a couple of years before they need to go to another one.
Yeah, I'll basically answer. You could carbon copy Steve's answer for mine. I basically agree with what Steve's saying. Between location and just general downswing in the hobby over the last 6 months since the last National in July, I don't think we see the same attendance, regardless of whatever is going on in the political climate or pandemic climate. I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's going to be like half or anything crazy like that. But I do think it'll be less. And that's a bigger venue, right? Filmington, you've been there before, haven't you, for the Nat, or no?
No, I think I wish I could have something to say about that. I think it's large enough. I think people have said it's larger than Cleveland. I think I've heard that before. I don't know if it's larger than Chicago.
Cleveland's pretty big, actually. Cleveland IX Center is actually pretty big. Or was, right?
I just think about the one in Atlantic City. I mean, it's literally as far east in the United States as you can get. I mean, you're on the ocean. So, like, for someone like me, it's like an hour and 20-minute drive. That's gravy. I don't even have to buy a plane ticket. I could drive home every day if I wanted to. But if you're coming from California or the West Coast now, you're not stopping in Chicago for the National. No, you might be stopping in Chicago for a layover because your ass has got to travel to the rest of the country to get all the way to Atlantic City. So, again, I think that could be a turnoff for some people.
Plus, like you said, once you get there, you got a 45-minute to an hour Uber. It's not like Chicago where you're basically across the street from you're not that far from the airport.
Yeah, Chicago. But Dallas is, again, like 30 minutes from the airport. I believe Dallas is a little bit of an Uber ride from the airport.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, we're seeing, do you think, so this is probably a better question for Kenny because he goes to a lot of these shows. Do you think there's oversaturation with these large shows? Like, are there too many, or do you think there should be more, or does like the 1 to 2 a month that there seems to be enough?
I just don't like it when they're like on the same weekend. For example, like you can't have Dallas and like another big show going on at the same time. That's really, because it's like, I just think right there, if you're I'm not a promoter, but I mean, I just think you want to capitalize on what you have. You don't want another big show you don't want the spotlight to shine on both, really. You want everybody to do well. And like there was in July, for example, that was the first Atlanta show actually in July.
Yeah, they were the same weekend.
Yeah, and they pulled it off last minute, and we committed to it, so we went to Atlanta, and then a lot of people still went to Dallas, but a lot of people came to Atlanta. But you could definitely tell it was different because of the 2 shows going on at the same time.
And that was also what, the weekend before the National too, right? Like on top
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
that was the weekend right before the National. It was kind of like, what are we, where are we supposed to be at? Are we supposed to be there? Or are we supposed to be here? So
Yeah, it feels like there needs to be like a big show czar that just kind of says
yeah,
like, okay, Dallas is this weekend, Atlanta's going to do their thing this weekend, Tampa, you have this weekend, whoever, they dole them out. Because I
yeah,
agree with you, having them both on the same weekend seems like a mistake, and also in that specific instance, having them both the week before the National seemed like a massive mistake too, in my
yeah,
opinion.
Yeah, and since we're talking about shows really quickly, I just want to touch on something that a lot of people might not realize. And I don't get out, I only get out to limited shows. So I noticed this just in the limited shows that I visit. With there being so many shows, there's lots of transactions taking place in the hobby. And people are I've seen comments and stuff. I can't see the comments on this live stream, so I don't know if anybody's commented on this one. I can't even see the comments, but I've seen comments where people have said the hobby is dead. And it's just strictly people that I'm going to say are doing online transactions, because with the amount of shows popping up, that hurts. Believe it or not, it hurts eBay. It hurts online platforms when people are moving their items at shows. And when you go to shows and see that they're lively and there's money changing hands and there's cards changing hands and there's buying and selling and trading, and it's happening fast and often, you get a whole new perspective on, the hobby might have slowed a little bit in some people's eyes, but it's not dead. And you feel the vibes and the lifeblood of the hobby when you get out into these shows.
Yeah, I haven't been to a lot of bigger shows lately, but I've been going to all my local ones and some of the regional ones, and they've all been busy. Like, I haven't noticed a significant drop. Now, I'm not set up as a dealer, so like I don't know if stuff's moving, but at least foot traffic walking around the show, I have not noticed like a Luka Zion silver like dip in attendance, compared to like their card prices or anything crazy like that. And Steve, you should be able to see chat if you click on the comments thing instead of
I do, but I do that, but it takes me away from the screen, so I can't see any of us. It takes me to the comments. So every now and then, if you see me going like this,
gotcha,
that's what I'm doing. I'm actually clicking over to the chat.
Oh, are
to
you
see.
on your phone?
Yeah, and I'm actually about to run out of juice, so give me a second.
Oh, you're good. If you need to pop off and come back on, that's fine. Do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I might just grab my charger.
So Kenny, what are you seeing at like the bigger shows? Like, or to Steve's point, like the market's dipping or whatever, but the vibe in the room is the vibe in the room down like the market is, or is the vibe still pretty good?
Honestly, I think it's still really good. Like, I mean, it just depends on what you're buying, honestly. Like, if you're going in there trying to buy Zion bases, I mean, yeah, it's probably the mood ain't there. The mood ain't there if you're looking for Zion and Luka bases anymore. I mean, you can tell like the hobby has changed its perspective. Like they've gotten burned on it, and people were just kind of moving on from that. They're trying to, you could tell by how people were trying to trade up all the the junk slab stuff to really get into one nice card, one numbered card, or one auto, and then just keep building from that. But I mean, if you're making the right transactions, that they move all the time, in my opinion, just my personal experience.
Filmington, have you been going to any shows lately?
Not a whole lot. Now I am part promoter of a local show in town that's once a month. So, and I was, whatever Kenny said, I was about to echo that, in that everybody's trying to trade up right now. Everybody's trying to trade their, base PSA 9, Kevin Durant upper deck rookies into something that's a little bit more of like a staple, better long-term asset that can stand the test of time, potentially something that's more rare, something that you don't find on eBay all the time in auction. There's not 3 or 4 going at all time. So yeah, people are being smarter. A lot of people were burnt in 2020 and 2021 from ultra-modern basketball, football, even baseball, soccer, probably even. And they're trying not to make those same mistakes. The folks that have stayed in the game, I think they're smarter. I think they're tougher. And I think they're willing to adapt as needed, because things have certainly changed. I mean, a lot of people would have said I was stupid and I've gotten like PSA orders back, and what I tend to do is even if it's not the right time per se to sell said player, I'll auction off right away, 7-day auction, 10-day auction, 50% of the stuff I got back from PSA, maybe more. And just because the way I think of it is, well, if people are consolidating, what are the chances that these cards will hold their value 2-3 months from now? So I think it comes down to what Kenny was saying is you just have to be willing to negotiate. You have to be willing to place your cards, put your cards at the right price to sell. If nobody's going to want to spend 10% over comps right now on highly available stuff, and nobody wants to spend 10% under comps on stuff. Everybody's educated on this stuff. Buyers are smarter than ever, and it's great. It makes for a healthier hobby when everybody's on the same page. There's no information like asymmetry. Everybody's got all the same information. Everybody's got access to Sports Card Investors app, the free version, if they don't have the paid for version, or the free version of Card Ladder. And yeah, you just have to be willing to just understand what the market is and don't get too greedy, right, Neo?
Yeah, you can't get greedy. Can't get greedy over some base cards too.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what's Roth say? Just don't go broke. Just take the profit.
I mean, honestly, sometimes you really just got to take that loss. Like, there's nothing wrong. I think a lot of people, like, if there's somebody here that I'm speaking to in this chat, a lot of people will hold on to cards until they go back up. The days of cards going back up, waiting till they go back up, really aren't happening. So if you can get whatever you can sometimes, whether it's breaking even, taking a slight loss, or taking a little bit over, whatever, and then you just take that capital and then just reinvest it into something, that is more certain, that you're more certain of. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Like, I got a PSA order the other day, and I did great on 2 of the cards. The other 2, we just broke even, and that's okay. You nail out of the ballpark on 2 of the cards, and that pays for the full order, and then the other 2, you break even, keep it moving.
Yeah, I think myself included, I fall into this trap sometimes. I think people don't want to take the loss because they always want to take a win, and they'll ride that thing into the ground until it gets beyond the point, where it's like you're just getting destroyed on it. Because I think everyone just wants to take the win, and they don't want to just say like, I was wrong on this and had to take a huge hit. Like I sold, I did a couple videos on it. I bought a Lucas Select Premier base back in April when Select was the rage. I was like $1,200 card, just a base Luca, because it was low pop, the whole 9 yards. Select was hot. I sold that the other day for like $500, took a $700 hit on it. And even that was 2 weeks ago. People were like, why'd you sell this? You should have waited. It's going to go back up again. Someone commented today on that video. They're like, yeah, the most recent sale's 3 something. Like it went down another $170 since I sold mine 2 weeks ago. And it's like, I got to the point where it was like, I would just rather have the $500, even if I'm taking the $700 hit. I could do more with that $500 than just sitting waiting for that Luca to go back up again, which to your point, that base stuff is probably not going back up again. I mean, some of the stuff, it'll eventually bottom out, and some of that stuff you'll probably be able to make money on at some point, but it's definitely not going back to $1,200.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, like dealers are, for example, I mean, me being a dealer personally, like I really don't buy base cards, but for example, if I know the dealers beside me, if they're buying base cards, I mean, they're buying them really at 60%, if that. Like you'll be lucky to get 75. It's like, because really you're moving it to the next person at 75, I think, on base cards. Like it's really tough to move base cards. So, whenever, and I hate to do it too, like whenever somebody's bringing up a bunch of base cards and you ask, how much are you looking for? Sometimes you hate even like showing them the comps. Like, they'll be at comps and then it's like, look, man, I don't even want to tell you what they're going for. But that's just the reality of it. And I really don't think, like you were saying, people really just don't want to put that in their mind. Like, dang, I'm really down 120% on this card, and I need 80. I need to be down 80% at least, not 100%. And it's unfortunate, but it's better to take that loss and just take that capital, re-put it in something that you stand firm on.
Yeah, I think that's definitely people's biggest hole in their games in general, is the not willing to just accept the loss and move on.
Yeah. People are psychologically, they're more likely to sell a winner too early and hold a loser for too long, trying to recoup that. But like at the end of the day, I think there's 2 things here. There's, on a card by card basis, it's okay to take a loss once in a while, as long as overall you're doing pretty good. And the second way to think about it is, even if overall you're taking a loss, like what is the portfolio of cards that you want to move forward with to the next year? Are you happy with 30% Jamal Murray? You haven't realized those losses yet, but you've got 30% Jamal Murray in your portfolio. You've got 20% MPJ, 10% Kobe White, only 10% LeBron James / Michael Jordan / Durant / Curry. And then you've got the rest, whatever, Luka, whoever. Like, are you happy? And maybe those guys will end up being great. Maybe Jamal Murray will come back and win 6 straight MVPs. But, at the end of the day, like, what you have in your portfolio matters. And that's kind of the way that I've approached it. So, like, I just did my P&L earlier today. And I'm looking at all the cards I took losses on for basketball. And I don't do basketball as much as Neo does, but 1147 loss, 871 loss, 669 loss, 580 loss, 526 loss. But then again, you have to look at it holistically. Like, how did your entire portfolio of cards do, if we want to call them that, or inventory or PC, whatever you want to call it. Well, fortunately for me, basketball is a very small component of what I do. Represents maybe 25% of my total sales. And in Q1, Q2, I was able to sell stuff for 1,600 gain, 1,012 gain, 506 gain, 369 gain, 350 gain. Where it came to, I think, let's see, total for basketball was, and I'm not going to share any other sports, but for basketball, 42,000 revenue this year. Profit was negative 540, so negative 1% margin. And I didn't plan for it to come out close to zero, but I'm selling stuff late in the year because I'm like, are these really, like what Kenny and Neo are talking about? Like, is this money really best spent here? Is this really the portfolio I want to roll forward? Is this really where my money is going to appreciate most from now on? Forget about the past. That's a sunk cost. But think about going forward. Maybe in the case of LeBron, where his values plummeted alongside Kobe and didn't seem to be attached to anything they were doing on the court, although LeBron wasn't really doing much on the court. His team wasn't either. Does my original thesis of LeBron being a good investment, does that still make sense? What's really changed? What's really changed? Has his legacy changed? Has his ability to break the all-time scoring record changed? Has his ability for the Lakers to have a great second half changed? Maybe it's still a good investment, and maybe people overreacted. Maybe the market got irrational. They got it wrong. So maybe in LeBron's case, I want to hold some of those, which I did. But maybe for some of these other ultra-modern players, base cards, etc., maybe I got a little too greedy, and maybe I should just stop the bleeding.
You mean like that LeBron refractor you didn't want to sell me?
Great example. So all of LeBron's second, third, fourth, fifth year refractors, as you know, we're both holding them. They're getting smoked right now. So the chalk toss, maybe the second year, especially if it was numbered, and certain other cards, one featuring Kobe, the one that's numbered to 500, I forget, it's at an 09, really cool pose. So like maybe some of that stuff I want to hold, but some, it's okay to sell because I think it might continue to fall.
Yeah, like I just sold some Tatum bases. I actually made a little bit of profit on one. I took a loss on another one. But it was the same thing. It was like, let me sell this stuff and get some cash in my pocket. But my LeBron chalk toss refractor, even though I'm down on that, like $400 or whatever it is, which is in that card, it's only like a 10% drop, I think, maybe 15 since I bought it. But I'm not in a rush to move that card. Like, to me, a LeBron chalk toss refractor PSA 9, I could tuck that into the box and forget about it. And I feel okay about that card. Now, I might be wrong on that, but in general, I feel way safer about forgetting that I own that card than I do a Luka Select base or a Tatum base Prism or whatever. And I think to your point, to circle back a little bit, I think another mistake people make is I think people hold their winners too long. Like you were saying about a lot of people sell their winners too early. I think some of it's the opposite. I think people are afraid about, everyone wants the time. They want to be that top sale on the graph.
Peak it. It's got to be the peak.
No, it's just, I think you're way better off to sell it early. I think if everyone sold it on the way up, everyone will be in a much better place, but people get cute. And then the second, we were talking about the PMGs earlier, where, that record breaker sale happens. All it takes is if the next Spider-Man sells for 20% less than that, is there all of a sudden going to be this panic of like,
oh, it won't. I won't let it.
Shit, that one went for 20% less. Now I need to hurry up and sell mine before the next one goes for another 10% less. And that's when you see the race to the bottom.
I won't let it, man. I'm leveraging everything on that.
Neo, back to your point. Like I just saw there was a Luka BGS 9.5 with a 10 auto Contenders Optic blue that just sold on auction for like $15K. And then like 3 weeks ago or a month ago, something like that, it sold for like $22K. and then before that it was 24, and then 18. So it's like, I mean, Luka isn't playing bad, but it's like the days of, oh, this card will go up once he, drops 40 again. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a high-end Luka, so yeah, it'll get back to its 18 possibly, or maybe it stays there. But Jordan autos are still staying the same. LeBron high-end autos are still staying the same. Like those sales they're still maintaining where they're at. So that, it's the same thing with the base stuff. Like at the end of the day, like we can't be waiting for Kobe White to come and drop 50 points, so his base card goes from $15 a PSA 10 to 25.
Now, his silver did spike this week based off of him having a good game.
like the days of the overnight, 150% doesn't happen.
The bull half in a summer league game and his price is quadruple. We are far from those days.
Exactly.
But then on the rare stuff, like the record-setting Spider-Man, and maybe this the next one won't sell that high. It is a different grade. The one that's going right now is a PSA 8. But the thing is that someone was willing to pay $80,000 for that at that time. There wasn't somebody willing to pay more, because if they were, they would have outbid them. So does that mean that makes the next person more hungry to not lose next time? Or is that person that was willing to pay $80,000 for said card, that person is now off the list? The next person is only willing to pay $79. You know what I mean? I don't know what the person lost at. So it's like, if another one of those comes up for auction, is the person that lost that wasn't willing to go $80K but is willing to go $75K, are they going to be there to bid? Maybe. But is there going to be the people there that's going to push them up now that the person that they were getting pushed up by has theirs? So again,
someone else will come in and be like, "Oh shit, I gotta get me one of those Spider." Kenny's like, "I gotta get me one of those Spider-Man red PSA 9s," and drops $90K bid in on the.
But that's where perceived value comes in too, Steve. Because think of it like this: if one did $80K, then you want to find the next one with no comps. Mm-hmm. That's why people are buying stuff with no comps at the end of the day as well.
Yeah,
like you see a gold sale of, let's say, of Kevin Durant, and then you want to see, there's another product of the gold, and you're like, oh, there's no sales on this. Well, this is where perceived value comes in, and that's where people are really making a lot of their money on, is perceived value.
I mean, we talked about this, I think it was on Steve's live stream a week or so ago, about how, I think, Kenny, we were going back and forth on this, about it's really hard to make money right now on a Luka Silver, because everybody knows the comp on a Luka Silver. So it's like, cool, you bought it from this table at, a Luka Silver, you're not going to get at 65% comps. Let's say you get it at 75% comps, being generous, maybe 80%. Cool. You got a nice deal on a Luka Silver. If you're trying to make money on that card, what's your best case scenario? You're going to sell it at 90% comps. No one's paying cash 100% on a Luka Silver, insert whatever modern player you want to. Yes. So best case scenario, you're making 10% on that card, probably. Absolute best case scenario, because
20% trade value. 20% trade value. That's it.
Yeah, and that is the angle. Like we talked about, that is an angle to take. Can you buy a card like that at 80% and then trade it at 100% and leverage it that way? I think that's a play. But if you're just strictly talking cash transactions, it's really hard to make money on that stuff because the prices aren't spiking. But to your point, the low pop, low numbered stuff like that doesn't have a lot of comps, you have a lot more wiggle room to make money on.
Easily. Because then you could just say, oh, well, this gold second year did 2,300. Well, this is a rookie, and there's no sales on even close to this product. That's where like products also come into play. It's like, let's say you buy a Panini 1. Are you really going to compare a Panini 1 of 1-on-1 RPA to like a XR RPA? Or are you going to compare it to, maybe take like 30% away from the Immaculate or something, or like the Collegiate Immaculate? Like that's where perceived value really comes into play, and comparing products.
Yeah, I think you see it, like like you, Roth, like a lot of the big time people on IG or whatever. Every day, one of you guys posts buying low numbered gold, RPAs, autos, anything under 10, and you know what I mean. Like all you guys are looking to buy the same stuff, so you can see what people are hunting for. Like,
and then they send you bulk lots of, and then they send you pictures of bulk lots of common slab.
I think PSA 9 silver DeAndre Hunter over here. I can slide into your DMs with.
I think the illiquid stuff, I think where a lot of people struggle in getting into it is you need to have balls to make an offer on something where there is no comps, where we have no supporting data. And on top of that, once you buy it, you have to wait for the buyer pool is probably going to be a lot smaller because they're going to be dealing with the same hurdle, of understanding what a good buy offer or offer price is for that card. Like I just bought a PSA 8 blue refractor auto of Bobby Witt, knowing that there'd be no comps, that nobody wants a PSA 8. Oh, what's wrong with the card? Can it cross? What's the issue with it? And dealing with all that sort of stuff. So I think with illiquid stuff, and maybe that's not a great example, is that's still numbered to 150. And there's still other grades where you can somehow derive a value based on multipliers to get, from a BGS 9 to a PSA 8 or SGC 9 to a PSA 8. But you also have to have conviction in your investment idea, going into that player, because it's probably going to be a longer term play because it's more illiquid and it's going to take longer to sell a card like that versus there's more opportunities for you to flip a Lucas Silver, even though it's something that's probably less desirable across the board. There's going to be people that can take it on, that understand what it's worth, that might be able to take it in trade or in cash, or might just want the card after he has a few good weeks. So it's definitely a different mentality, and it's definitely more longer term with most of the illiquid stuff. It's not something that you should expect to be able to flip quick. Can you? Maybe. You might be able to find the right buyer. You might be able to have a good enough argument. Maybe you got into it at a low cost basis. Maybe it was super undervalued, and people see that. But if you bought it on eBay especially, or if you left a paper trail where people can now see that comp of that thing that hasn't sold in a year or two, just be prepared to hold it for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why, like, as well, you can always look at like, for example, whenever I buy cards with no comps, like how we were talking about, similar products or stuff that, comps really come from eBay. But then that's where, you got to use some other advantages. Like you got to check Golden Auctions and PWCC and type in what else has similarly sold. Like whenever you're finding like, I'd say like dual autos of like Kobe LeBron or like LeBron and Jordan, that's where you really need to find the same year autos, lower grades, what they did, and then you can really have a good selling point.
I also think a good move is I think these types of items move more fluidly at like trade nights than they do on like showroom floors. I actually think a good way to take advantage of that is maybe get a deal on a showroom floor, take it to a trade night. I just, from personal experience, from rather watching other people and myself at the National, I had no comp high-end RPA cards of some football players that I had a hard time moving. I got offers, here and there, but nothing that I was really, really happy with. And sometimes when I would give my price to a buyer, they would be like, it seems like a fair price, but I'm not sure, so I don't know if I want to take it on. So it was kind of like tough to move on the showroom floor. However, at the trade night, everything I couldn't move went with like little hassle, like very easily, because I just put it out on the table and people walk by and were like, "Oh, that I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that. What's your price?" And it wasn't it was me dealing with somebody also on the same playing field as me, where they didn't have they weren't on the dealer side of the table. So
with the way things are right now, like obviously we all know, like you're not buying a card in 5X in a night anymore, like you used to be able to. If someone new was coming in and they're like, I got $1,000 or whatever, and I want to get rolling into it, like what do you think the best way is to get rolling? Is it like the value box plays, like Ryan from Card Collector 2 talks about all the time, doing the work in the value box? Is it raw to grade again? Is it, is it something else? Because not everyone's going to go out and buy like, Kenny and those guys, gold out of 10s or whatever. But for someone just coming in, what do you think is the best approach these days? I'll go Filmington first.
Well, I think it depends do you want to make a lot of money or not lose money? Because if you
let's just say you want to fund the hobby with the hobby, and we'll leave it at that. We're not creating we're not doing it full time like Kenny is, but also I want to upgrade. I want to build a collection, start upgrading some things, slowly building the nicer things, but I don't want to pay all cash from my regular job for it. I want to use the hobby to fund the hobby type stuff.
So the raw to grade thing, for somebody new, that takes a lot of experience in probably submitting cards yourself to get a good understanding of what cards are, and it also takes good eyes. Some people I know just can't spot corner damage, their life depended on it. Maybe they're too old, maybe their eyes stink. I don't know. But that's a learning curve. So I'd say stay away from that. The dollar box deals, I'd probably, given the trending of the hobby away from base and highly available stuff and highly liquid stuff. And again, that's another learning curve in itself, because you have to really understand players, and it takes a lot of time to go through a dollar box. So I might suggest, 4 or 5 cards, between $200 to $300. Do your research, understand comps. Look at Card Ladder, look at eBay, look at TerraPeak, all the resources you have available to you, market movers, etc., and try to find something that's undervalued of a player that you're confident in. Part of this is also a hobby, so ideally they would really like and watch the sport and watch the player from which the card is featured, and try to target those players. You could go in the GOAT direction, slow and steady returns usually. In traditional times, pre-COVID, post-COVID, or you could take a chance. It all depends on your risk aversion. But one card for 1,000 could be the best answer for a lot of people. But you have to really be right on your first card then, and the chances of somebody very new being right and outsmarting the seller on his first card, probably 10% probability. I'm thinking so. Maybe you want to buy 4 to 5 cards, spread it out that way.
I'll throw it to Steve.
All right. Re-ask the question again.
How would you?
Because I got his answer, but I just want to hear it again.
Someone just kind of coming in, they've been hearing about sports cards. They want to hop in to start the New Year's resolution or whatever, and they kind of want to take the approach of, I got 500, I got $1,000, and I want to use the hobby to fund the hobby. I'm not trying to retire off this, but I want to upgrade a collection over time and build. How would you recommend someone getting started or getting rolling? What would be your approach? If you had to reset your collection to $1,000 bill?
Man, depends on how quickly you want this to happen. Because nothing's going to be really quick.
we're not saying you got to turn it around in a month or
right,
anything like that.
I mean, if I'm focusing on a certain sport, I'm always going to look outside the box at a market that hasn't been tapped. Now, again, you're talking about somebody coming in brand new, so they're going to have to research what's hot, what's not, what has been hot, what's on the horizon, what is a completely untapped market. Until this year, Marvel was pretty untapped. Until last year, soccer was pretty untapped. So you're talking about opportunities that were in untapped markets, that those opportunities are few and far between now because the markets have been driven up. Is there something else out there that you can get into? I'm really into oddball items. I think they will always find a collector for something, whether it's you find that collector in a month or you find that collector in 6 months. I'm buying really low end stuff that that a lot of people don't even know exists. Whether it's a card of an arm wrestler or a card of an actor or a card of a rock and roller or a rap star or something, and buying it cheap because it's only $3 or $4, grading it cheap because the slab's not going to matter that much, because slab competition is a thing. If you have 10 Luca Prisms PSA 10s on the market and you have 10 SGC 10s on the market, the PSA 10s are probably going to sell before the SGC 10s sell. There's slab competition. But when you're grading something or something that's very, let's say, under the rock type of card, you can grade it with SGC cheap because it's the only slab on the market. You throw it up there and somebody's like, hey, can I find that card in a PSA? No, they can't, because people aren't grading these types of cards. And you can snowball money like that. My last SGC order did very good for me like that. And it had things like wrestling cards, Nintendo cards, an arm wrestling card, like I said. And there were cards that I bought for like $3 and $4. I graded for $30, and then I resold them for like $60 to $70. It's not a lot of money, but it's very low risk, and it's a way to snowball your funds up. I mean, if you have $40 invested in a card between the grading fee and the price of the card, you sell it for $70, you net yourself $60 to $65. Depending on what platform you sell it on, that's a $25 profit. And if you do that across 10 low-end cards from an SGC order, that's $250. Now you can go buy yourself $100 card for your PC and take $150 card or $150 of that money and put it back into something that you think you might be able to snowball up. But I really think right now it's this. I really think it's the stuff that you just don't see people selling that much.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. What about you, Kenny? I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. I'll be right back, but I'll be able to hear you guys.
All right. I'd say if they're just starting, honestly, so I honestly just went through this with my best friend because he literally just started and he came in with like $1,000. I think honestly, they have to learn the hard way. Like it isn't just, you know, you making money off the jump, really. Like my friend, when he first got started, like you can't just dig through dollar boxes. They don't know what they're looking for. So that's like out of the question. Like you can't just join the hobby and just, you know, start digging through dollar boxes and think you're just gonna 3x immediately. Like it's just not gonna happen. There's too many products, there's too many players. It's not gonna happen. So my friend, whenever he got started, you know, he came in with like $1,000 and, you know, he bought first I gave him his first deal. I actually gave him a card for 60%. It was a Michael Jordan's second year. So it was a really good, you know, it was a good card. I was like, look, I'm into this for so cheap. I'm going to give this to you at 60% of the last comp. I showed him the comp and I was like, look, I know you can move this easily at 80, 85%. So, you know, I was like, let's get you started. He got burned in a trade. He got absolutely smoked. I'm talking absolutely smoked. Like the card was worth, it was a second year Jordan. It was a BGS 8.5. It was worth like the last comp did 650 at the time in July. So I was like, I think you can move this easily at like 550, 550, you know, something like that. I gave it to him for 300. I was into that card for so good. And he got back in trade value like $300. Like he got absolutely smoked that. I was just like, wow, I'm so I cannot believe it was like letting a dog like loose. It was like letting go of the leash and like they just go crazy. Like he came back so confident. He was like, yeah, I got this deal done. And I was like, brother, no.
Gotta learn.
Yeah, but he learned from that. Like he was down, but he learned from that and like he did his research and now like, you know, for example, like we've split cards now. We've made margins on splitting cards. Like I think really you just got to do so much research. And I think grading is very key. I think grading brings the whole hobby in the circle. Like it gives you the full hobby experience. You buy a card, maybe it doesn't PSA 10 your first time. So you learn, why didn't it PSA 10? So, but you get that full experience. Like, oh man, you know, let's say hypothetically grading wasn't $150. Let's just say you were grading at the regular cost, like $50 that it used to be, $30, however much. You get that card back. It's a PSA 8, PSA 9. You learn from that, and you're like, okay, now I need to look for the corners. Now I need to look at centering. I think grading is very key to the hobby. I think it gives the whole collectors like full circle. I think, like, I don't know. There's something about grading for me that even whether it's, you know, making margins on it, but I just think it brings me as a collector like, dang, this came back at PSA 9, this came back at PSA 10, and you learn from it, and then you just get
it's
better.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah, there's nothing better than getting the grading box back.
Exactly. Even if it's a bad grade, it's like, dang, it's slab now.
Yeah, it's addictive to a lot of people I've seen.
Yeah.
Linko 3.
To me, it's the grading thing is key because it's like the ecosystem. You know what I mean? People get into a card they buy it raw for $10. They spend $30 to grade it. They're into it for 40. Comes back a PSA 10. They sell it for 200. Let's just say, making up numbers. Now they have $160 in profit. What do most people are going to do with that $160 in profit? They're going to put it back into the hobby, whether it's buying an already slabbed card or buying more raw cards to then send off to grade. But they're making that money consistently on raw to grade. And like you said earlier, you know, you got a PSA order back. 2 of the cards you missed on, 2 you hit on. That's fine. As long as you come out a little bit ahead on the submission, then you're good. And I think that's that like circular ecosystem of, you know, buy it raw, send it into grade, make the profit, and then put that profit back into the hobby is what we've kind of been missing for the last year. Now, that being said, PSA reopening or the grading companies being cheaper is not going to re-elevate the numbers back to what they were, but I don't think it could hurt, you know what I mean, to get that cash flow kind of rolling again for everybody.
And like, it's just super exciting to grade.
I think if they're brand new to the hobby, just buy what you like first. I made like whenever I first started, like the stuff that I was investing in, like went down, and then the stuff that I really liked, like my favorite players, went to the moon. So just buy what you like first, I think.
And it helps with conviction too. Your ability to kind of withstand bumps and ups and downs. If you feel really confident about the player, the sport, then you're likely to hold it a little bit longer, maybe. And that could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. So yeah, I think you got to learn with experience. I just dropped into the chat. I think Gary V recommended like do 80 hours of research before making your first transaction in cards. It's like, dude, you just took a bunch of Adderall, you jumped into the hobby. You're like, you didn't do any of that. So just shut up.
Yeah, I know. Like when I jumped into comic books, I did a ton of research before I started pulling the trigger.
Oh yeah.
You know, I was buying like PC item stuff, like, you know, first Jim Lee X-Men that there's a bazillion of, which is the worst investment book ever. But I just wanted it. Like I didn't do any research on that. But when I started taking it more seriously at the beginning part of this year and like looking at stuff, I spent a ton of time on YouTube and like, you know, watching different channels, not taking any one person's advice, seeing what they were saying over here, seeing what this person was saying over here, watching non-investment stuff to see like what they were saying about just general collecting to kind of get the vibe of like what are people looking for before I started spending big money in that market. You know, I spent, I don't know that I did 80 hours, but I definitely just didn't go on eBay and, you know, start typing stuff in and hit and buy it now on everything for sure. And as much as there's, you know, when you start crossing into other collectible markets, whether it's Marvel cards, which are, you know, still PSA slabs or whatever, it's a completely different learning curve whenever you cross in. Even just going from basketball to football to baseball is completely different, you know?
Yeah, I think also like I was saying about my friend, I think honestly you just got to learn the hard way too. Like you really just got to take a loss early, and then that's really when you know that you can adapt and like if you know it's really for you. Like I really believe that because like last year for example, when I was slowly making my way back, like there were some cards that I got absolutely just obliterated on, but I mean it was like okay, I mean what do I do now? I mean do you just stop? No, like and that's how I felt whenever my friend got smoked in the trade. Like I was so happy that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give my boy a great deal. I want him to do good on this. I want him to feel like making 150. Like I knew for sure he was gonna make like 150, $200 like easily that day, and my heart was just torn when this man just came to the table, and it's like he barely broke even, if that. Like it, so. I think you just have to learn sometimes, really, just by taking a loss as well.
I still have some original GMA slabs from 2014 when I came back into the hobby that I haven't been able to sell. I think it's a Yesel Puig purple refractor. Not only is it the wrong grading company, but it's Bowman Platinum, and it's probably not even a true rookie. Yeah, nobody wants that for $10. It's been marked down to $5. So I'm going to take a loss on that one, I think. But yeah, I mean, like. I agree. And at that time, I didn't know the resources existed that I know of now. And now I've got a network of people to bounce ideas off of if I'm willing to. So Blowout Forums is a really good resource. For me, it was huge to understand like Bowman Chrome multipliers and print runs. It still is. A lot of people do that math for like new sets and they won't come up with a precise number. So you'll never know if it's right, but they'll come up with some sort of range or estimate. And I find stuff like that very helpful. From a sealed wax perspective too, you'll get a good idea, especially sports that you're not as familiar about. Like for me, I look at sport like soccer and, they really like Topps Stadium Club, or they really like Topps Chrome Merlin this year. And why? And is there good ROI on their rips? And how is hobby versus retail? And there's a lot of great resources out there. It just takes a while for people to understand, like, I think what's out there. And then, of course, you've got to immerse yourself into it and learn and make the mistakes the hard way. I agree with that. And most people starting out, most people aren't dropping like $50,000, $100,000 right away their first year. So you're able to kind of afford the luxury of spending, I don't know, like between 0 to 500, or depending on your financial well-being, up to 5,000, and then maybe go in harder the next year once you've learned. If you're able to adapt, of course, you've got to be able to adapt too. It's part of the process. But yeah, I think that's a good process.
I think one of the things that you mentioned there really quickly is really important as well, is like the networking aspect. I mean, we all talk about it, like making connections, making friendships, who you know, all that stuff is very important. Whether it's bouncing ideas off people that you perceive have more knowledge than you, or just to get other opinions from people that you respect in the hobby. Plus, it also helps on the buying and selling front. You know, to Kenny's point, you know, if I have a card that he really wants or something, we're more likely to probably get a deal done at a very reasonable thing very quickly, because, you know, we know each other or whatever, or, you know, we could reach out to each other in DM, or me and Steve, or me and Filmington, or, you know, whatever. Like, Filmington knows I DM him random stuff about baseball every once in a while, and I've done my research on that, but I don't feel as comfortable in the baseball market as Filmington does. So every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this Soto, whatever, and vice versa. And those relationships are key, and I think people lose track of that sometimes, especially to win a deal. You know, I think sometimes you're better off to leave, you know, like a lot of people talk about, leave them a little bit of meat on the bone, whether it's to build the friendship or to keep that buyer or seller coming back to you, is extremely important, and I think very underrated.
Yeah, and I've just recently started using Instagram to actually sell. Like, I was really doing a lot, you know, eBay. Then I transitioned as much as I could to My Slabs because of the fees. And I'm going to tell you, probably, other than the Philly show, I sold a lot of stuff at the Philly show at trade night for cash. I wasn't trading, but probably my last like 4 or 5 deals that I've gotten done have been on Instagram that have been sales from this SGC order that I've just recently got back, where people saw my YouTube video of my SGC reveal, or they saw the card on eBay and contacted me on Instagram. And I've always tried to use Instagram, but it's just been recently for me that it's becoming a better way for me to do it. And if it's becoming, if I'm getting more volume on Instagram now, then other people have to be as well. Because somebody who is, I would like to say I'm a little bit out of touch with Instagram and Twitter and things like that. So I know if I'm starting to get transactions on Instagram, then it's a lot of it going down.
Filmington, do you do much on Instagram? I mean, I know you're on there, but I don't know that I see you like post like for sale stuff or whatever, or anything like that.
A little bit. You know, I probably need to do a better job at like segregating what's for sale and what's not, because I do get a lot of people reaching out to me. I think what helps is my branding is the same across eBay, YouTube, and Instagram. Same exact name. The issue with my branding is it's not sports card specific. So people on eBay still ask me, do you have an IG, without actually looking? You know, and it's like, oh, great. Do I have to respond to this idiot? And I'll respond, like, I'll spell out IG like EYE space GEE, and they'll be like, huh? but yeah, I've had good luck in Instagram, Facebook. Facebook's like peaks and valleys. It's that's the issue. Like when you dive into Facebook, first of all, you got to find the right rooms. Some of them we post stuff for sale, it'll never get looked at because there's so many people complaining, and they got bumped up because they got all the views and the likes and the laughing emojis, and you'll get buried. There's some groups like that just get too big. Maybe that's part of it. And then there's some groups that are actually pretty good. And I think it's weird. Like, the hobby is an industry that is on like some curve, and there's like, you know, peaks and valleys, and there's growth periods and decline periods. And I feel like with Facebook groups, there's periods where everything is overpriced for like a straight quarter where I'll stop looking at it. Then all of a sudden, like, there's some good deals. Then everything's overpriced again. So I think what's helped me is I'm known as the guy that kind of prices things like pretty close to the market. Could be wrong. Maybe there's some bias there, but I think that definitely helps. On Facebook, I'll kind of price things to sell. I've noticed a lot of people are like way off. And they're hoping to like trick somebody. They don't get a whole lot of action, and their stuff gets buried because they only get one like and nobody responds to it. So yeah, Facebook and Instagram have both been pretty good. I think with me, I wrote this in the chat, I think like an hour ago. eBay is actually not too terrible for me from a selling perspective on high-end stuff, because I have a store. So I have a basic store. It's like $28 a month, and I'm a top-rated seller. I don't know how I got that, like number of sales or total dollars sold or something. And basically the fee structure is pretty competitive, over like $5,000, to the point where, like, I sold something for 20,000 on an eBay. I think it was like a total managed payments. It was like 1,000. So it was cheaper for me to sell through eBay in that case versus My Slabs even. And I think you really start to see that, like, the breakpoints over 5K, where things start to get like pretty seller friendly. If you're on managed payments, which I think most people are now, if you're a top rated seller and if you have a store. It doesn't even have to be the top store. Like the one I pay for is the basic store. And so eBay, I've been selling a lot of stuff through there too. But what sucks is that when you're selling stuff for like under 500, a lot of the low end stuff, a lot of stuff I'm getting back from PSA. Yeah, you're getting hammered on that. You certainly are.
Yeah. The eBay fees are killer on that low end stuff. Yeah. You're losing the 14% or whatever it is to them. It just hurts so much on some of that stuff.
I have a card listed on eBay right now for 2K, and I've gotten 4 offers now, counting this last one. And all the offers, the first 4 were all the same amount. 1,500 basically. I've had 4 offers of 1,500 for a card that I have listed at 2K. I've responded to all of them with my IG name or my slabs, because I'm like, I would probably take 1,500 for this if that's what I'm going to net, right? But by the time I'm into the card for 1,000, so by the time I pay eBay fees on a $1,500 sale and PayPal fees, I'm really not looking at a big turnover, maybe $300, right? So instead of messaging me back about Instagram, the same person just gives me another offer of 1,600. So they up the offer, but if they would just get with me on IG, I'm like, if you get with me on Instagram, I'm more than likely going to give you the price that you originally wanted at 1,500. Now you're offering me 1,600, which still you're going to be paying more. I'm still making less than if we just do the $1,500 deal. That's the stuff that sometimes just gets to be a bit annoying.
Yeah, if your first thing isn't searching the person's eBay handle on Google or Instagram or Twitter or whatever, then you're just not.
And I get it. Maybe they don't trust. Maybe they don't trust buying on Instagram, which some people, that's fair enough. But My Slabs, we can get it done on My Slabs, and My Slabs is even more strict than eBay.
My Slabs does not, as Steve is well aware, My Slabs does not play around for buyer and seller shenanigans.
Oh, it was my photos. I didn't do anything wrong. My photos just weren't cropped.
I'm saying, like,
they shut me down.
Steve, I've got the same stuff. I've got mine on card stands too.
Yeah,
I'll get kicked off eventually too.
As long as you crop it tight, you're okay. Like real tight. So we've been going for 3 hours. I'll probably start to wind down here. Do you have any hot 2022 takes, Filmington?
Yeah, so connected to what you brought up, and I think might have been one of your last episodes about you thought that the whole aspect of buying raw to grade to then flip would become a part of the hobby again, which I agree. Kenny brought it up. I agree is a very integral part of the hobby. I think that's one of the reasons why we're sort of in a lull. I think that was a really cool part about the hobby that not a lot of people can do anymore unless you're willing to do with SGC and maybe some of the other smaller grading companies. I think that I don't know if 15 to 20 is going to come back this year. And the reason for that is because I think a lot of people are sitting on hordes of cards that they were unwilling to send to SGC. One of the reasons why SGC has been able to handle the capacity and the volumes as well as they've been able to is because there's a lot of people that just aren't sending to them. So I'm worried if they go down to 15 to 20 within like 6 months, that we could come to like another 3 million card backlog situation. Not as bad as like 12 million. I think it'd be pretty bad. So what I'm trying to say is I do think that grading raw to flip will come back this year, but I don't know about under 20. I think maybe 20 to 30 might be the price point that comes earlier. And I think that could lead to wax being a good buying opportunity. So I think sealed wax, like good years, where people aren't opening as much of it anymore or they're participating in breaks because of the buying raw to grade and then flip aspect is missing temporarily. I think that will help drive up the values of a lot of good sealed wax. It doesn't have to be vintage, like, pre-1972 or even like, the super rare stuff, but I'm talking like 2018 Topps Update, 2019 Bowman, 2020 Bowman. If Luca can get his act together, maybe some of his stuff, retail and hobby, and 2017 football, and there's a number of stuff, and that's all for you guys to decide what's good and what's not. But I think there's going to be a bull market for wax coming up.
So Chronicles blasters load up, is what you're saying?
Yes, buy everything. Like when the guy in Panini was interviewed, and he said we created 10 times as much retail as last year for Chronicles. Like he admitted it. Yeah, buy all that stuff. Yeah.
Do you have a guess on what the next hot thing is going to be? Like we've had Marvel, we've had F1, we've had soccer. Do you have a non-sport, whether it's a card or other type of collectible or whatever? Do you have any wild guesses on what the next hot market's going to be, even if it's a short-lived, burn brightly only for 5 minutes and die out?
What I will say is, because I wasn't able to say earlier with PMG, I had a comment there about so about a month ago, if you followed like alt auctions and Golden and PWCC and Heritage, you saw a bunch of like gold stuff. Like gold is like, and it's not even the 2012 original Prism gold. It's everything gold. And if you want to take it further, it's everything second, third, fourth year Tom Brady, a refractor. Doesn't even have to be numbered. There's a lot of shiny stuff. That to me is a little bit of a fad. I like the 2012 Prism stuff for football and basketball mostly. And there's probably some hockey stuff too that's numbered to 10. Like, I think that's pretty cool. I think that has staying power. But I think that led people to the PMG. And I think that maybe was part of the driving force behind that record sale for that Marvel card in the PMG. So what I will say is it's not terrifically, it's not super fascinating or original, but I think the PMG run is going to be a little bit longer than what people think. I think it's going to spread to basketball, to football, Jerry Rice, Michael Jordan. And I know we've already seen a bull market for them, but I think we're about to see another run up because people are associating not just gold prisms, but also kabooms, right? It's like, oh, that cool insert of like the generation, but what they're failing to remember is, wait, there's like another one that is like the proven insert of the generation of the 90s, and that's a PMG. Call them ugly or not, and a lot of people might say they're ugly, and I might agree with them, but that is like the hot insert. I think it's proven enough, and less of like a temporary fad situation versus kabooms, which I print more and more of. And I think, and you've probably talked about this in Neo, they don't really change up the design too much. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of similar to the Prism Gold, even though they're numbered to 10, just sort of like this new hot insert parallel thing. Well, sometimes that can bring attention back to the original and like the sure thing. So maybe that's 97, maybe that's some 2013 stuff. Giannis rookie, McDavid rookie, even if you're stretched out to hockey, Trout, good luck buying those right now. I can only imagine what the next sale is going to be, especially the blue. But I think PMG is here for a while. That's what I'm saying.
The other thing with the PMGs is that everyone knows exactly how many there are, and especially they don't grade extremely well at all. So on the upper end of the grading thing, I think they could hold longer because there's just not a lot of them to sell. Especially the key, if you're strictly talking Marvel, of the ultra key characters, there's just not a ton of them out there. So you don't have these constant transactions happening one right after another like a Lucas Silver. It might be one a month that you see something like that sell. There's just not a lot of them out there. So I think that would help sustain the high prices longer because they're not transacting as often.
Yeah, with the PM, they're just not out there raw. And when you do find them raw, they're tough to grade, like you said. But when you look at the serial numbers on the backs of the Reds, and I guess in 2013, I don't know if it's 99 or 100 exactly, but that doesn't mean there's 100 nice ones out there or even for sale. I mean, go to eBay and type in Marvel PMGs. You don't find a lot of listings on raw or graded on any color from 2013, 2015.
Yeah, 2013 is a wasteland. Plus, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think on 2013, I think on all the PMGs actually, like on a red to 99, the first 10 are green. So there's really only 90 of them or whatever that would be.
Oh, so you're going to deduct
like a PMG red. There is no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are the greens.
Oh, you just dropped some knowledge on me. I'm
just positive. Kenny, do you know off the top of your head? I'm almost positive that's the way that it works.
I don't know.
But if Charles Fuchs was still in chat,
I just assumed. So, are you just deducting the greens out of it?
Yes, or the blues, it's just the greens that. Well, because in 2013, I believe there was only green and red. I don't think there was blue.
So then there would, 2013 has blue, yes.
Do they have blue? Okay. But I
so
think
would there only be
deducted out? I'm almost.
So would there be 40 blues? So instead of 50 blues, there would be 40.
I don't know on the blues. I think it might just be a green and a red thing.
Okay.
Interesting.
Do your research on that. But I think on the reds and the greens, the first 10 of the reds are actually greens. There aren't 0 through 9 reds. I see Filmington nodding yes, as in like.
No, I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not
first
really
10 are
sure
green in basketball, Jonas says. So there is no like 1 to 9 on the reds for PMGs.
So then I guess, so then there would be like 40. Technically, there's 40 blues, and then would be like 90 reds, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if it affects the blues or not. That's the only thing I don't
okay.
know. I don't know where the blues come into play with this because there are like 101s too. I believe.
Oh, the golds. Yeah, there's gold 1-of-1s, but I don't know if they're in 2013 or not. And there's purples out of 5.
I know there's a 2017, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, 2017 has gold 1-of-1s and purple out of 5.
Yeah. So, Steve, same question for you. 2022, do you got a hot take?
I see a run up in Americana pop culture. I see a market being established. If there's not already a small market, and maybe not a boom, but I see more people getting into pop culture, whether it be music, actors, actresses, like I said last night, politicians, past and present, hunting down I saw a George Washington autograph for sale on Golden. I was like, holy crap, how awesome would that be? But, we saw the Jay-Z cards really get a boost, and it kind of like stayed with the Jay-Z type thing, but I can see it getting in. And as it trickles in, actually carrying over into some older type items. Now, the stuff is so cheap right now, it's not going to take that much to see an increase in prices on those. So that could be a thing. You could be like, hey, they're $20 now, and next year they're 50. That's not a huge amount of money, but it is a pretty good gain on something that's really cheap right now. I have just a couple by my side. You guys have seen, I post this stuff on Instagram. I'm an Al Pacino fan. I bought Al Pacino relic cards that are numbered out of like 200. These were $10 a piece. So for me, it's collected anyway. This Marilyn Monroe relic card, it's got a shiny piece of a sweater on it. This was like a $20 card. So it's very low risk, but I think that this type of stuff, I think there's going to be a market for this type of stuff. Whether it's a huge market or not, I do think it'll be a bigger market than there currently is.
Wow. I forgot that Spider-Man Red PSA 8 was ending tonight. Is that you, Kenny? Did you bring that one home?
Not me. Not me.
Well, let me head on over to PayPal, guys. I got to cash out.
I agree with you. That I think the pop culture stuff is the next potential to see escalation in prices. Now, what it is who knows? Like to your point, like Jay-Z stuff went crazy. It didn't transfer over. Is it going to be pop culture in general, or is it going to be, a certain select number of people?
If Fanatics was able to do a high-end set of that would be one thing that I would really want for the next year. And I had talked to you about this before, was I would just like to have a really high-end set. Most of the stuff that I'm buying is from Don Russ Americana or Panini Americana type stuff that was out years ago. But, could you imagine a flawless set coming out with celebrity autos? I mean, we see Marvel autos selling for quite a bit of money. I know Leaf has a pop culture set. But, those cards just look, I don't want to say cheesy. I just feel like they got I saw a John Travolta autograph with a pink refractor background, and I was like, that just doesn't appeal to me. I like John Travolta, but I don't want him on a pink refractor. You know what I mean?
I said they look like a MySpace page.
So I'm just kind of like, but could you imagine a nice, clean, flawless card with the white and maybe a relic telling you what movie they wore this in? If it's someone's favorite movie, all of a sudden, boom, that's going to draw some interest. On top of the fact that you might like the actor or actress, Yeah, I like Al Pacino. I will buy Al Pacino stuff, but if there's an Al Pacino Godfather relic, I'm going to be willing to pay even more for it. You know what I mean? I just think there's a whole untapped market with that if something could happen and they could put out a set like that. And when you put out a new set, what do people do? They start digging up the old sets.
Yeah, like I bought my wife that ScarJo Black Widow card that has the piece of her suit from Iron Man 2 that was screen worn. Like I know that came from Iron Man 2 that was used and shown on screen in the movie. Like to me, that stuff's cool. Like to your point, like what I would like to imagine a James Gandolfini, soprano relic or something, like a piece of a leather jacket or whatever would be insane. Like the Marvel stuff does go crazy. Like a Tom Holland Marvel MCU auto is like an 8K card, I think. Like that stuff's insanely expensive. Or like an RDJ I think are like 10K plus for RDJ autos with anything Iron Man on it. You know, it's wild how much that stuff goes for.
Like, what if you did it with like musicians and you inserted in the packs like signed ticket stubs on a card? I mean, of like your favorite music artist. I mean, that just sounds to me like cool, innovative, fresh, fun, something somebody would be emotionally attached to. The emotional attachment is what drives the market. If someone has no emotional attachment to something, eventually you just run out of collectors. And when there's no collectors, there's no hobby. You can have all the investors and flippers and stuff that you want, but if you have nobody at the end of that road to buy that card off of you, forget about it.
I guess Gavin Lux doesn't have a whole lot of collectors.
He's got really high pop on his Topps base, that's for sure. I think that's always like one of the most graded cards every month from PSA.
Well, see,
he'll be a meme for decades.
But like
somehow the Bichette is like half of his because of quality control of the Bichette's card or something. It's funny.
I'm sure Gavin Lux's mom might buy his cards. But see, there's an emotional attachment.
Exactly.
That's only not a lot of demand on that side of the scale.
Yeah, right. I'm just kidding.
Kenny, any hot takes for 2022?
Yeah, I think I don't think PSA or Beckett goes under $50, and if it does, I think it's only to complete your set. Like, I think it's only like if you're sending in, like, you know, just to really complete your set. I think with like PSA, like old vintage or stuff like that, you know, the cheap stuff. But I don't think like ultra modern or anything like that goes under $50. I think the best way to grade base is really through SGC, and then you hope for a 10 with PSA. But I think $50. I don't think they want to be backlogged again ever. Like I just feel like they really don't want to ever be backlogged ever again.
No, and they have their queue system now, and I gotta imagine they know exactly what they can turn, what they can churn and burn. So I think we do see sub $50, but it'll be throttled. You know, it'll be. It might not even be set registry related. It could be if you're a PSA, you know, member.
Yeah, that's pretty much
grading or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know that it's open to the. I don't think that you'll just be able to log on whenever you want and submit at $25 a card. I would agree with that.
Exactly. That's what I think. I think literally to the public, I think Beckett and PSA, it's going to be either 50 or 75, like the minimum next year. I think maybe 2023. You know, we'll probably, you know, like the expansion that they're trying to do to the East Coast, I think is really the biggest factor. I feel like once they come to the East Coast, it's really. I think it's crazy if they come to the East Coast, because then you just drop off at the East Coast.
Because you figure they're churning out 40K cards a day some days out of one facility in California. Even if the East Coast facility is a quarter of that size, that's still a ton of cards that they're cranking out. And to your point, you know, if they're, I don't know where is it Jersey that's supposed to be going?
I believe it's in Jersey. That's what they were talking about.
So if that's like close to New York City, like imagine, you know, the people that could drop off, that would be able to drop off in person for high end stuff, you know, or even just, you know, bulk submitters, you know, that would have the advantage to say, hey, send to me and I drop off in person to eliminate some shipping or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't grade base, but I just think that they were just, you could tell, like, I mean, shutting down grading and literally just putting a halt. Like, no company really ever wants to do that, especially in the middle of a pandemic as well. Like, you don't want to do that. I think really, like I said, you got to have some special access to go under $50 a card. Other than that, I mean, I don't think they want to see what happened to, you know, now that we're in this junk slab era. And then I think ticket stubs. I was talking about ticket stubs a couple months ago, and now they're on Golden regularly now. And I feel like records are about to get broken each time.
Yeah, I could see that too. I should go through mine. I have. When I was a kid, and throughout middle school and high school, in my early college years, every game that I ever went to, I kept a ticket stub from. So I have all my ticket stubs from every game I've ever attended. Now, I don't know that I was at any meaningful games that would like demand some insane value, but I have a lot of them to sift through if they ever actually went completely nuts. So,
on the PSA, like service level pricing, like Kenny says, he doesn't feel like it'll drop below 50. My thing is, they have a very large infrastructure in place now, and they're talking about expanding, like you said, if they come to the East Coast or if they're coming to the East Coast. A lot more manpower, a lot more whatever it takes to grade cards. If it gets to the point to where they're through the backlog, and people aren't submitting enough cards at that $50 rate to actually sustain their payroll. Do they then lower the price just to generate more grading to come in because they're already staffed and have all this infrastructure in place that they don't want to go to waste, and they don't want to lay people off of their jobs?
That's the angle that I've, I don't know that we see $25 grading by the middle of the year, but I think by the end of the year, if they get fully caught up and the demand is not there, they will price to fill their coffers. Like they will price to fill their receiving room. So
yeah, so I was watching PC Sports Cards. They had a counter on their website, and it showed how many cards they were getting submitted for week 1 of 300 cards. I know, Neo, you talked about them and how they're one of the largest submitters of PSA, top 3 probably in the country and world. So I submitted 10 cards through them, and I was like, oh, geez, I don't know how many people are going to like send them cards at $50. So I did Priority Express. They're in New York. I'm in Massachusetts, pretty close. So basically overnight, through USPS, and they got the cards like a day or maybe 2 days later. And I checked Monday, and only 150 of 300 spots were filled. And I think they advertised it the afternoon of Thursday that they were taking submissions. So
that's at $100 a card, right?
That's at 50 a card, and the current level, right? 50.
The current level is 100.
Wait, 100? Oh, geez.
100 for specific groups.
All right.
Well, so 100 for certain group submitters. The $50 thing was the one-time send up the bat signal.
Right. So I screwed that up. So it's $100. So to Kenny's point, we don't know what the demand's gonna be at $50. For some reason, I thought they dropped to 50. Damn, why aren't they 50?
They did for like that one day. It was like a
it was like a promo,
and I missed that.
2,000 people in line.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, Kenny's point still is
and you had to be a PSA Collectors Club member to get the $50 thing.
Right.
So
tax deductible.
My theory has always been they will price to put everybody else out of business, or at least try. If they get caught up, and they will price, they will go Amazon and Walmart essentially, and try to outprice everybody else. Because
I do think that they can possibly buy out another grading company too.
I mean, there's been smoke around the SGC thing for a while.
Yeah.
I think that went sideways now that they decided to build their own facility, but it still could happen for sure. And that's the thing, PSA or, CSG, the grading comps suck on the resale market. It is what it is, but those two have the most money behind them by far, by a mile. Those two have the most financial resources behind them. So they could do a lot of different things that a lot of the smaller companies can't. If the investors are willing to maybe take a little bit of pain to just straight outprice the market and steal the business from everybody else if they have to.
Yeah, you got to pull a card out now. Jonas says, does anyone remember the Topps Chrome Lord of the Rings cards from the 2000s?
It's upstairs. It's upstairs. Yeah, so chat doesn't know this. I think I talked about this on Steve's stream last week. I bought my wife a Viggo Mortensen Topps Chrome PSA 9 auto for Christmas. She sits on her, she just carries it around with her. She loves herself some Viggo circa Lord of the Rings. So yes, I do remember those. We were actually talking about those on Steve's live stream 2 weeks ago, I think. So Kenny, how do you use? Because I wanted to wrap up, but I'll circle back on this. You're at a lot of big shows. You're moving in and out of a lot of cards. How does the secondary market view a lot of the non-PSA? Like, are you seeing SGC gaining more normalcy on the secondary market, or is there still a lot of people that are like, nah, PSA BGS only?
PSA BGS only. Like you remember when we were talking, like if you got the 9.5, like, I mean, I think it, I mean, I don't think I so it's kind of tough to say, but like, I'm not a buyer of that stuff. I don't believe I am. I feel like I do think SGC grades very, very harsh. Like I would love to buy SGC PMGs all day, and I'll crack them all and send them to PSA. I feel like an SGC 9.
You're going to say Steve's got a pile.
That sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a good idea.
I know we were talking about that last night, but I think like I think with like with the rare Marvel stuff, if you can get them an SGC 9, SGC 8.5, whatever it is, I think they have a really good shot at a PSA 8, PSA 9, and I think they still bring possibly 20% or more than the SGC 9. Like there's just something about PSA that people love about it. Like it's never gonna go away. Like it really isn't. As much as, I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Like it's hard to sell SGC at a table. It really is. Like unless you have a bunch of SGC, but like think of it like this: if you're a high end dealer and you have so many PSA and BGS high end slabs, and then you got that one SGC slab, your buyer is looking at that SGC slab as like, oh, okay, this is we got to get close to raw or close to the lower PSA grade. You know, like if it's an SGC 9.5, they're thinking, okay, this is a PSA 9 or a BGS 8.5 or a BGS 9. Like that's how I've seen it literally happen firsthand. So HGA really gets treated as raw. Same with CSG at shows. I think, you know, you probably have a better chance on eBay or Facebook, but it shows everybody's literally looking to buy HGA and CSG at the raw comp.
Yeah, SGC I think definitely has a place, but I agree with you that I think a lot of people. My general take on this has always been, and I don't want to get the SGC police mad at us because I feel like I do it every time I do a live stream, and I actually think SGC is very viable to grade with for the right cards. There's cards that make sense to use them for. I feel like more people want to grade with SGC than actually want to own SGC.
Yes.
Like a lot of people want to agree with SGC. I think a fraction of those people actually want to own their slabs.
I think I think it's literally SGC 10 or bust on some of them too.
Where I've done
modern for sure.
Yes, on ultra modern, it's SGC 10 or bust. That's it.
Right.
I've graded quite a bit with SGC. Go ahead, Flemington.
I was going to say that's one of the issues with the 9.5 is that your natural distribution, you're going to get fewer 10s because of that 9.5 grade, and then when you get it, you're like, oh.
Yeah, the
like,
9.5, it's like it's literally just okay. What do we treat it as?
Yeah, I like the thought process behind it. I like what it brings the customers in more differentiation. You know, instead of giving everybody a 10 or a 9 for ultra modern stuff, you give them a little bit more insight and granularity in their grade, and that's great. But from a resale perspective, it's tough, especially when people after the initial onset of SGC's initial foray into ultra modern, when people realized, oh, a 9.5 isn't actually gem mint, it's mint plus. Then you saw the comps for 9.5s really start to come down. Then it became really tough to move them. SGC is a perfect case study for how it's hard for a small grading company to be successful because they had a vintage footprint, they had history in the hobby, they were known to be consistent and tough, they had great customer service. Maybe their label sucked and still does suck, and it's the flimsy holder, and I get it. Yes, I agree. But like they had like 4 out of the 5, they checked off the boxes, and like they're still not making a dent. And I think what hurts, and you guys might disagree, but the average value of a card in a BGS holder, and I know, Neo, you've talked about how nobody submits to them anymore, and I know I don't really use them, and man, their leadership must be terrible because they haven't like done anything. What's their roadmap? What's their plan? How are they expanding? Are they status quo? What are they doing?
They release a snarky update once a quarter.
But at least the average value of card in their holder is still quite high. Now you can say that SGC set records with like vintage sales, but like, what about the average card they have in their holder? What about median value? What about average ultra modern and modern? What a lot of people are submitting for the most part to them, like, is it like under $50? What's in their holders? At least Beckett's got a lot of Bowman Chrome autograph stuff, you know. At least they've got a lot of the thick patches and exquisite autographs and stuff like that from the early 2000s. What does SGC have? And I know vintage, I get it, but it's like a separate market. And I think they've struggled. The resale value struggled in a way because of the average values, the types of cards that they're attracting from the modern, ultra modern eras.
To your point too, like all the things they had going for them, they also had the fact that PSA was basically closed for a large part of that, and they still, now they've definitely made inroads on BGS. I think, you know, like you'll regularly see on ultra modern SGC 10s compete with BGS 9.5s in resale prices now. Like it's not always higher, sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's a little lower, but they're close. They're within a 10% margin of error one way or the other, and to me that's a big win for that company. Just the fact that they've pulled there. But I still feel like a lot of people don't actually want to own their slabs. They would get it, and a certain portion of people buying them are buying them just to crack and sub to somebody else.
I think also it just depends on the type of card. Like, let's say you have a first Bowman Chrome. Everybody wants the 9.5 with the 10 auto than an SGC 10 all day. Like, nobody wants the SGC 10. I'm sorry. You want a BGS 95 with a 10 auto or the PSA 10 or the PSA 1010.
Yeah.
And I think if you
I
buy
think where the SGC does the best is like the stuff that Steve sends them. Is the stuff that there's not stuff of the stuff Steve's sending them in PSA and BGS holders.
Correct.
So you don't have the competition. You don't have a PSA 10 sitting out there. The only option is the SGC because it's just stuff that wasn't traditionally graded before. And with PSA being closed and Beckett being Beckett, there wasn't an outlet to send them that stuff. You know what I mean?
And where I've done well with SGC has been soccer stickers in particular, not soccer cards, but soccer stickers. You know, anything from like 2013 and earlier, your older stuff. And then, like you said, the oddball stuff. I have one in front of me, and this is graded in a 6.5. This is an old Andre the Giant card from a board game that was issued in Japan. So it's a 1981. Most people consider his rookie card to be the 1982 Wrestling All-Stars. This is actually a 1981 oddball card from a wrestling game that was only issued in Japan. You can see the writing on the back. I sent 2 of these in to SGC. I got a 6 and a 6.5, but I paid $12 a piece for the cards. One of these already sold on Instagram for $200 with no fees. So I just got PayPal friends and family $200 for the 6, and I'm still holding the 6.5. So that's where you can find oddball items for $10. It doesn't make sense to send it to PSA for $50 to $100 to grade, you know. But if my end game on this card is $200 and I'm in it for $40 with my grading fee and and the price of the card, and you're not going to find this in a PSA slab, then this is the option that people have. So that's the type of stuff I try to hunt for to send to SGC and soccer stuff.
I think they could do really well. And one of my hot takes for the video that I dropped the other day was maybe we see an SGC slab redesign sometime early this year with maybe a slight label tweak. But imagine SGC, but with CSG's plastic, basically.
The white, the clear white with like a black border or something instead.
I mean, I'm saying they could keep the tux, but I'm saying like just shrink. You know, my biggest issue with SGC is they feel cheap. I understand a lot of people will do scientific breakdowns if the plastic's the same or whatever, but I don't care. They feel cheap in my hand. But I hate that they're slightly larger than Beckett because they don't fit nicely in a row in a case. Yes. You know, shrink it down a little bit, get like that ultra clear plastic. Like you can hate CSG, and a lot of people do, and their label does suck, but from the neck down, CSG slabs are fantastic. You know, get a nice clear heavy duty whatever, shrink it down a little bit, maybe update the label slightly, and I think it could do a lot for them because I do think a lot of people don't like them just strictly off, as dumb as it sounds. We all know it's stupid. The case and the label drive a lot of the prices, whether we like it or not. As dumb as it is, the case and the label matter.
Like I love the CSG slab,
and I don't like HGA, but I actually like how their slab feels. It's like super sturdy.
Yes,
that's CSG slabs for me. They feel like you could kill someone with a CSG slab.
It's so tough, but it's like they just don't sell. They just don't sell. But whenever I feel them, they definitely feel like these guys took their time on their slab, which is you got to appreciate that.
Yeah, I think CSG feels good, feels sturdy. It's crystal clear. I just looked at one at their booth at the National.
So I don't know what they did.
Their slabs are so.
It feels like like the weight's like perfectly distributed. It feels
like so good, like a samurai sword.
Yes, like HGA feels hard, like a piece of ice. You could throw it at somebody, probably kill them if you wanted to. But like CSG feels like an investment label, like a slab. Like the label sucks, yes, but I think overall I take the whole package over all of the other companies in the top 5, even with that stupid green label. I would still take them over Beckett, and somebody brought it up. It's crystal clear. Neo, you brought it up. Crystal clear. You can see the card. The Beckett slabs, they've got like condensation spots. They're cloudy. If you try to cross it to PSA, you'll crack it out and be like, oh, damn, I missed like these 5 creases. Like, it's very different.
Yeah, how many times do you see those scuff marks on the inner the sleeve or whatever, the penny sleeve, but you see those surface, you're like, how the hell did this get like a 9.5 surface? There's like these massive scuff marks on the sleeve itself, you know. And
the only issue is if CSG does a label change, if you're buying CSG now and they do a label change, it's going to be a turnoff in the future. Like say they do a label change and they gained a lot of steam in the market. Now you're holding a bunch of CSG stuff with the old label. I mean, here's 2 cards. This is SGC. This is the old label. This is a Kobe 10, and this is a Mario Lemieux 8.5.
The old SGC labels, I don't even know how to read them sometimes. It's like a 90, like a 92, but it's like a near mint 7, I think, or something.
They have 1 out of 100, and they also have the actual 10 on this one. So
yeah, like they're just weird. I don't know. Every time I look at it, you could tell it needed a tune-up.
Yeah, but I mean, I could send these and just have them transfer the slab over for me, and keep the grades. But I don't know. I just feel like if you think a SGC slab is a little bit harder to move, or you're going to get a little bit less value, have one of those and see if you can get regular Tux price for it.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to relate that to ifs, because the rumors are that CSG might be working on another label because they're listening to the customers. So
I think they had surveys. I think we all know that it's coming. It's just, I think that's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah. So I actually have a search set up. I get the alerts, my email alerts for any auctioned CSG slabs in a pristine 10. I'm not familiar with their grading standards. I haven't really paid a whole lot of. I haven't submitted to them. Yeah, well, I know the scales like them, but I don't have a good feel over how strict they are, other than blowout and what other people say anecdotally. So, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, because the one thing, even if SGC was to make their label nice, just as nice, if not nicer, slab plus label, nicer than SGC, I don't think, if SGC was to make their label and slab nicer than CSG, I don't think they would kill CSG, because CSG is a large company with deep pockets, it seems. Pretty big investors there, right? And they also have ultra modern and modern expertise from Beckett, which, SGC, I know they've grown it. I think they've grown it more organically. They've had the same head grader for a long time. But I still think there's a competitive advantage there for CSG. And what I'm noticing is that nobody auctions off their CSG slabs. You hardly ever see them in the 10 grade. The 9.5, I don't know what to think. And I know, Neo, we've talked about this, and you think they made a mistake by copying Beckett's scale. So me personally, the pristine grade with SGC doesn't do much for me. I haven't really found their 10 grades to be worth it. The centering, and I've noticed defects from my own experiences, which have just been a handful. But I'm willing to roll the dice with CSG, and given the label, given how cheap they are, might be able to find a deal. So
yeah,
I have my eyes open for the right
CSG comps are brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
It's so bad. All right, we'll wrap up here. Smash the like button if you have it. Filmington, any hot content you're dropping? I know you actually put out real videos that weren't just rookie explosion boxes the last week. Is this the new norm? Should we expect this, or are we just going to get the quarterly videos out of you that are non-rookie card explosion boxes?
Me and Flip and Steve actually have a bet. Whoever gets to 6,000 subs quicker,
oh, you win.
$100 plus whatever he has for Marvel cards I get on top. Just kidding. So I'm trying in this coming year. I'm trying to put out more consistent content and trying to do more the cross promotional stuff. I think that's where me and Steve kind of fail a bit, and maybe that's where you can work on it too, Neo. You're kind of YouTube only. You've got IG. All right, you've got IG. You've got some other platforms.
Yeah, but I'm on IG. I'm on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right, Twitter. I'm trying to get all my socials to all be consistent and have a presence across all of them. And the RCEB shouldn't be something that's YouTube only. Maybe I can, in my non-RCEB videos, maybe I can bring that up. I don't know. But my next video is actually going to be breaking down the different markets in baseball and what that has, what kind of effect that has on hobby values. So the strength of markets, just from a baseball specific perspective, which might have some parallels in other sports. I don't know. But after that, I'm going to focus on, I can't give it away because Dakota will probably copy me. So he's probably listening.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Kenny, are you strictly going to keep doing the vlog stuff? Or are you going to mix in some others? I know that your content's mostly vlog driven. Are you going to try to mix in some other stuff?
I get back a bunch of PSA orders whenever I send some raw cards off. I'm looking to send off more cards to get graded. So more grading reveals, kind of what was behind grading it, maybe why I got that grade, stuff like that. I really just ask a lot of people all the time, on Instagram, what do you guys want to see? and let them really decide. I guess people like the show content. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at buying a bunch of raw, getting stuff graded. I mean, I love grading, man. It's fun, and there's nothing better than getting a nice slab back. I just got this today. I don't know if you guys saw this on my Instagram.
Oh yeah, I did. You told me last night you were going to pick that up.
Yeah,
today.
I was so excited to pick that up, and it's actually going off to PSA tomorrow.
Nice. So what would the next big content thing for you be? Dallas show vlogs, probably?
Yeah, the Dallas show. Well, there is a local show, so I'm not sure yet if I'll record at the local show. But yeah, most likely Dallas. And if not, we'll keep going. And I don't know. We just read the polls and see what the people want.
The vlog stuff definitely gets all the views. I mean, if I wanted all the views, I would just travel around the card shows and do vlogs. But that shit's a lot of work to edit all those videos together.
You found a rhythm that's worked, man. Come on, you found your niche.
Yeah, no, I'm happy
great
with what I'm doing.
With what you're doing.
Just talk about my charts and graphs and be greedy. I'm perfectly content with myself.
Oh yeah, and Steve, I would like to make a deal on that Black Widow. That offer still stands, or maybe we can make a better offer. Just let me know. I'm always here.
Hey man, I got the pliers out. I'm about to pull it out of that case. And
Oh my God.
I'm gonna grip it right from the top and put dimples right in the top. This is how you remove your card from a slab.
Watch Kenny cry.
I'm gonna put it into a card saver.
So, Steve, besides your next video dropping of how to crack an SGC slab to get a Marvel PMG out of it, you got anything spicy coming up soon?
I wouldn't say spicy. I do like one video a week, and I have 5 different things I want to talk about, and I gotta try to pick what I'm gonna do.
You can't just make more videos; they let you.
Yeah, I know. It's a hard balance between family and the job and things like that, and still not getting burnt out on it. You know what I mean? I would get burnt out on it between my job and my family and trying to pump 3 or 4 videos out. I just would. It would start to feel like a chore, because if you start to do 3 or 4, then you got to sustain 3 or 4, and then it would feel like a chore. And when it's not a chore, and when it starts to feel like a chore, it takes the enjoyment out of it. So, and I do it because I enjoy it, and I just don't want to get burned out on it. So, going to probably do a video showing some of when I get some more stuff in the mail. The thing that finally is going to ship after 9 days. Show some of I do the videos on the oddball cards because a lot of people don't do those, and a lot of people like to see them. Well, not a lot, but certain people like to see them. So at least that gets me some traffic from those. I have some PSA orders coming back. I'll probably pop up driving to work 1 or 2 days and just talk about whatever the hell is on my mind.
I love the live drives. Those are my favorite.
Whatever I want to philosophize or sound ridiculous about talking about on my way to work. Sometimes I have a story, sometimes I don't. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I would like to get more how-to type videos done, because I remember doing a video on how to evaluate your cards for grading. And we were talking about earlier, if someone is new to the hobby, they need to do research, and they need to go to YouTube and whatever and look for their research. And if it's not there, and there are videos out there, but I haven't seen like a fresh one in a while. And I did mine way back when I first started my channel. So I could think maybe doing a video on how to evaluate your cards. I know that's not going to get views from the typical people because they already know, but it's just a video out there to maybe be kind of helpful. Just like when I just did my video about my slabs and my account being shut down for my photos. And my account got back up. It was just a small little thing. They instantly reactivated my account after like an hour.
Steve was in panic attack mode while that was going on.
Yeah, I didn't want anybody else to make that mistake. So that's what I turned instead of doing like a mail day video showing people what I was buying, I was basically like, well, I'm just going to make this video so people can learn from my mistakes so that they don't do it and wonder why. Because that was the thing. I was like, did I get a complaint? Did I get a PayPal return? I mean, what's going on here? Did I get hacked? I was like, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why they would deactivate my account and not give me a reason. So that hour of kind of like wondering what the hell was going on and checking all my accounts to make sure I wasn't hacked and things like that. So it also allowed me to give recommendations to my slabs, which they probably don't watch my content anyway. But I mean, enough people do that maybe they could voice, hey, yeah, that would make sense if you would just tell people why when you deactivate an account.
I'm guessing they sell it. I think most companies probably see most stuff, whether we want to admit it or not. Any company that's creating stuff is probably at least YouTube searching themselves once a week to see.
And I think that it was an automated system that did it. So the type of system that they have in right now, with them still being kind of upstart, might not be as advanced to be like, okay, we're shutting you down and this is why, as opposed to just shutting it down and then you contacting customer service and finding out why.
Agreed. All right, boys, we'll wrap it up there. If everyone in chat is not subscribed to these channels, go do that. On your way out the door, hit the like button, and we will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Later, everybody.